As I sat at the elegantly set Thanksgiving dinner table in my parents' house, surrounded by the comforting familiarity of my childhood home, I couldn't help but feel a sense of peace. At 60, these visits had become my refuge from the stifling atmosphere of my own home. The lively chatter of my daughter Emma with her grandmother filled the room, a stark contrast to the silence that often enveloped my conversations with Richard, my husband. My phone vibrated sharply, disrupting the warmth of the moment. Richard's name flashed across the screen, sending a shiver down my spine. With a hesitant sigh, I excused myself. "Excuse me, it's Richard. I'll just take this in the kitchen." But as I rose, my fingers slipped and the phone speaker activated. "Elaine, having fun over there?" "Well, don't bother coming back." Richard's voice, unnaturally cheerful, echoed through the room. I stood frozen, phone in hand, as his words hung in the air. "What are you talking about, Richard?" "Oh, I've decided it's time for a change. I've moved Emma's stuff into the house. There's no room for you anymore." The silence that followed was deafening. Emma's fork dropped with a clatter, her eyes wide with disbelief. "Richard, what in the world are you saying?" My voice was barely above a whisper, heart pounding in my chest. "It's simple, really. Emma doesn't want to come home because of you. Without you, she can finally live the life she deserves, like when she was a child. So leave." Emma stood up abruptly, anger flashing in her eyes. "Dad, what are you—" "Stay out of this, Emma." Richard's voice cut through, sharp and cold. "This is between me and your mother." My cheeks burned with a mix of humiliation and anger. "You want me to leave our home? Just like that?" "Yes, and you can go to some shelter or whatever. Doesn't matter to me." The call ended abruptly, leaving a haunting silence. My mother reached out, her hand trembling. "Elaine, honey." But before she could finish, Emma burst into laughter, incredulous and bitter. "He's lost it, Grandma, completely lost it." Inside, I was a whirlwind of emotions. Humiliation, anger, and a strange sense of liberation. He better be ready, I thought to myself. This isn't the end. It's just the beginning. As I lay in my childhood bed that night, the moonlight casting shadows across the room, my mind wandered back through the years, sifting through memories of Richard and me. Our story wasn't always filled with cold silences and bitter words. There was a time when Richard's gaze held warmth, and his touch promised safety. I met Richard when I was in my late 20s. He was charming, confident, and seemed to have an answer for everything. I was captivated by his charisma and how he seemed to take the world in his stride. We married within a year of meeting, a whirlwind romance that felt like a fairy tale. But the fairy tale began to crumble soon after Emma was born. Richard's affection for our daughter was undeniable, yet as his love for her grew, his regard for me seemed to wane. It was as if his heart had room only for one. "Elaine, can't you see you're smothering her?" "Let her breathe," he would chide whenever I tried to be involved in Emma's upbringing. His words stung, but I believed he was just being an overly protective father. As Emma grew, so did Richard's disdain towards me. The man who once looked at me like I was his world now barely acknowledged my existence, except to criticize. "Why can't you be more like Emma? She's only 10 and already so independent," he'd say with a sneer. I remember the night when Emma, at 15, won a school award. We were supposed to celebrate as a family, but Richard turned it into a lecture session. "Elaine, why can't you achieve anything like our daughter? You're just wasting your life away," he said, his words like daggers. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, feeling the weight of years of his contempt. It wasn't just the words, it was the dismissive glances, the heavy sighs, the way he'd turn away when I entered a room. I had become a ghost in my own home, invisible and insignificant. But that night, as I lay in the quiet, a resolve began to stir within me. Richard's callousness on the phone, his brazen dismissal of our life together, it had lit a fire in me. I wasn't going to let him erase me from my own story. I turned on my side, closing my eyes, but sleep eluded me. The shadows on the wall seemed to whisper, urging me to stand up, to fight back. And I knew, deep down, that I was ready to do just that. The next morning, I awoke with a sense of clarity I hadn't felt in years. Over breakfast, Mom tried to discuss Richard's call, but I steered the conversation elsewhere. I wasn't ready to delve into that can of worms, not yet. Emma, sensing my unease, didn't press either. As we cleaned up, my thoughts drifted back to the recent years with Richard. His controlling behavior wasn't just confined to our daughter. It seeped into every aspect of our lives, tightening like a vice around my freedom. "Elaine, I don't want you working late. You need to be home to cook dinner," he would demand, disregarding my career in the library, which I cherished. His rules were arbitrary and ever-changing, designed to keep me off balance. If I wore something he didn't approve of, he would scoff. "Dressing up? Trying to impress someone? You should focus on being a better wife and mother." Even my friendships weren't spared. "You're spending too much time with Linda. She's a bad influence," he declared one day, his words slicing through years of friendship like a knife. But it wasn't just the control, it was the humiliation. At social gatherings, he would belittle me with backhanded compliments, often in front of Emma. "Elaine tries her best, but she's not the brightest bulb," he'd say with a laugh that made my skin crawl. Emma saw it all. At first, she tried to defend me, but Richard's influence was too strong. "Mom, just ignore him," she would whisper, a look of helplessness in her eyes. I remember the day Emma left for college. Richard was beaming with pride, but there was a coldness in his eyes when he turned to me. "See, Elaine, this is what happens when you raise a child right. She's not like you, thank God." That stung more than anything. The implication that I had no part in our daughter's upbringing, that my years of love and sacrifice meant nothing. As these memories churned in my mind, a simmering anger began to bubble to the surface. No more. I wouldn't let Richard dictate my life, not anymore. The phone call was the last straw. It was time for Richard to face the consequences of his actions. I looked at Emma, her face a mirror of my resolve. "Emma, there's something I need to do when we get back. It's going to change everything, but I need you to trust me." Emma nodded, determination in her eyes. "I'm with you, Mom, all the way." The drive back home was filled with a tense silence. Emma and I were both lost in our thoughts as the weight of the impending confrontation with Richard hanging heavy in the air. Once home, I retreated to my room, ostensibly to unpack, but really to make a call that would set everything in motion. I dialed the number of a divorce attorney I had discreetly noted down a few months ago. My hands trembled as I heard the line connect. "Hello, this is Elaine Richardson. I need to discuss a divorce." The lawyer, Mr. Adams, was calm and reassuring. "I understand this is a difficult time, Mrs. Richardson. We can help you navigate through this process." As I detailed Richard's behavior over the years, Mr. Adams listened intently. "We can file for divorce on grounds of emotional abuse. It seems you have a strong case." Feeling a sense of empowerment, I replied, "I want to go through with this, and I want him to pay for what he's done, not just legally, but financially too." Mr. Adams assured me, "We will do everything we can to ensure you receive what you're entitled to." After the call, I felt a mix of fear and exhilaration. For the first time in years, I was taking control of my life. Later that evening, Richard returned home, his demeanor smug and triumphant. "So, you're back. Realized you have nowhere else to go?" His words cut deep, but I held my ground. "I went to my parents' house, Richard. Remember the place you practically banished me to?" He scoffed. "I did us a favor. Emma and I are better off without you." "That's where you're wrong," I said, my voice steady. "Emma is not a pawn in your twisted game, and I am not your prisoner anymore." Richard's face contorted in anger. "What are you blabbering about? You think you can survive without me?" I met his gaze, my resolve unwavering. "Watch me." Emma entered the room, her expression one of quiet strength. "Dad, you've gone too far. Mom doesn't deserve this." Richard sneered. "Oh, now you're taking her side? I thought you understood, Emma. Your mother is useless." Emma's eyes blazed with anger. "No, Dad. The only useless thing here is your cruelty. We're done living under your shadow." As we stood there, united against Richard's scorn, I knew we had crossed a point of no return. The battle lines were drawn, and I was ready to fight for my freedom. The morning after our declaration, the house felt like a battlefield. Richard's usual air of arrogance was more pronounced, as if he was daring us to challenge him. As I made breakfast, my hands shook slightly, but my resolve was firm. At the table, Richard broke the silence with his typical condescension. "So, Elaine, have you finally realized your place? Ready to beg for forgiveness?" I kept my voice calm. "There's nothing to beg for, Richard. I'm not the one who should be apologizing." He laughed, a cold, harsh sound. "You've always been delusional, but this is a new low, even for you." Emma, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. Dad, this isn't a joke. We're serious. Mom is filing for divorce. The look on Richard's face was one I had never seen before. Confusion, disbelief, and then anger. Divorce? You think you can just walk away from me after everything I've done for this family? It's precisely because of what you've done, I said, my voice rising. Years of belittling, controlling, and humiliating me. I won't stand for it anymore. Richard slammed his fist on the table, his face red. I made this family. Without me, you're nothing. Emma stood up, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. You didn't make this family, Dad. You tore it apart. And Mom is more than something. She's everything you're not. His gaze shifted between us, a wild look in his eyes. You're teaming up against me, your own husband, your own father? This isn't about sides, Richard. It's about right and wrong. Yeah. I said, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside. And what you've done is unforgivably wrong. Richard's laughter was bitter. You think you can just leave and everything will be fine? You have no idea what you're in for. I met his gaze squarely. I know exactly what I'm in for. Freedom from you. Emma moved to stand beside me, a united front. We're done being under your control, Dad. It's over. Richard stood abruptly, his chair toppling behind him. You'll regret this, both of you. You don't know what I'm capable of. As he stormed out of the room, the tension he left behind was suffocating. But amidst that tension, there was also a sense of liberation. The battle had begun, and I was ready to fight for my freedom, my dignity, and my daughter's future. The days following our confrontation with Richard were a whirlwind of activity. I met with Mr. Adams several times, laying out the groundwork for the divorce. He was meticulous, ensuring every detail was accounted for. We'll make sure you get what you deserve, Elaine, both financially and legally, he assured me. Richard's reaction to the divorce papers was volcanic. He stormed into the house one evening, papers in hand, his face a mask of fury. You're actually going through with this? Do you have any idea what you're doing, Elaine? I faced him with a calm I didn't feel. Yes, Richard, I do. For the first time in years, I'm making a decision for myself. He laughed mockingly. You think you can survive without me? You're nothing without my money, my support. I'm not afraid of being on my own, Richard. I'm more afraid of spending another day under the same roof as you, I replied, my voice steady. Emma, hearing the commotion, came downstairs. What's going on? Your mother has lost her mind. That's what's going on, Richard spat out. She thinks she can just take half of everything I've worked for. It's not just what you've worked for, Dad. It's what Mom has endured for all these years. She deserves every penny and more. Emma countered. Richard's eyes narrowed. Don't be foolish, Emma. This will ruin us all. No, Dad, it will free us, especially Mom. As the days turned into weeks, the house became a cold war zone. Richard moved into the guest room, his presence like a dark cloud. Despite his attempts to sway me, my decision was final. The day of the first court hearing arrived. As I sat in the courtroom, waiting for the proceedings to start, I felt an odd sense of serenity. I was doing the right thing, not just for myself, but for Emma as well. Richard, on the other hand, was a bundle of nerves. When his lawyer talked about a settlement, I couldn't help but smile. Richard, who always prided himself on his control, was now at the mercy of the court. As the judge reviewed our case, Richard's face grew paler. When the judge turned to me and asked if I had anything to add, I took a deep breath. Your Honor, for years I endured emotional abuse and manipulation at the hands of my husband. I'm not seeking revenge, I'm seeking justice, for myself and for my daughter. The judge nodded, his expression solemn. I understand, Mrs. Richardson. This court will ensure fair judgment is passed. As we left the courtroom, Richard's defeated look was all I needed to see. The battle wasn't over, but I had won the first round, and I was ready for whatever came next. In the weeks that followed, my life felt like it was under a microscope, scrutinized by lawyers in the court. But with each passing day, I felt stronger, more in control of my destiny. Richard's attempts to intimidate me became more desperate and less effective. The final court hearing was a day I had both dreaded and longed for. As Richard and I sat on opposite sides of the courtroom, I couldn't help but reflect on the man I once loved, now a stranger filled with bitterness. The judge's voice was firm as he delivered the verdict. The court finds in favor of Mrs. Richardson. Mr. Richardson, you are required to pay alimony and half of your assets. Richard's face was a picture of shock and rage. He stood up abruptly, his chair clattering to the floor. "This is ridiculous. She doesn't deserve a penny." "Mr. Richardson, control yourself," the judge admonished. "The court has made its decision." As we left the courtroom, Richard's parting words were venomous. "You'll regret this, Elaine. You think you've won, but you haven't seen the end of me." But I no longer feared him. His words, once so cutting, now seemed empty and powerless. In the months that followed, I found a small apartment close to Emma's place. I started a new job at a local library, a place that had always brought me peace. The alimony from Richard allowed me financial freedom I hadn't experienced in years. Emma and I grew closer, our relationship no longer overshadowed by Richard's presence. She was thriving in her career and personal life, a stark contrast to the frightened young woman she had been. As for Richard, the last I heard, he was living a diminished life, his pride and finances greatly reduced. His attempts to reach out to Emma and me were met with silence. The man who once held so much power over us was now just a memory, a shadow of the past. I often sit on my balcony, a cup of tea in hand, looking out at the peaceful neighborhood. I've found a sense of tranquility and purpose that was missing for so long. The journey was painful, filled with struggles and heartaches, but it led me to a place of peace. Emma visits often, and we talk about everything and nothing. Our bond, forged in adversity, is now unbreakable. As I look towards the future, I do so with hope and a sense of freedom. I've emerged from the shadows of my past stronger and more resilient. I've learned that sometimes the hardest battles lead to the greatest triumphs. And as for Richard, he is nothing more than a distant echo, a reminder of a life I once lived and the strength I gained in leaving it behind.
It's like you're not wanted here. You should go. Even though my brother said mean things to me, my sister-in-law sitting next to me quietly squinted her eyes and smiled, enjoying my surprised face. When I looked at our mother, who I lived with for a long time, she sadly said, "Living with your brother and his wife, who went to a really good university and works at a top company, seems better than living with you, Linda. You always stay inside the house," she said calmly. My mother, sister-in-law, and brother didn't seem to realize how much I've helped with money and worked for our family. Even though it hurt, I said, "Okay, I'll go. Don't ask me for help again," and started packing my things. She watched me and sarcastically said with a smug smile, "Giving up so easily, Linda? But nobody knows who will have a harder time in the future. Ignoring this could cause problems. My name's Linda, and I've done really well with online businesses. My journey here was unexpected. Back in university, I thought I'd end up with a regular job at a typical company, but something changed everything during my second year. My dad got sick and needed someone to take care of him every day. My mom wasn't great at housework, so we hired caregivers. But they couldn't be there all the time, so my mom had to step in. Sometimes she ignored my dad's needs, telling him to wait. I had to help him out whenever this happened. Seeing this made me worry about the future. When I start working, who will take care of my dad? I couldn't rely on my mom alone. So I started looking into ways to make money from home. I studied online business stuff during university, using what I learned in economics. I teamed up with friends who knew about management and economics, and then with others who were good with computers. That's how we started our online business project. We had a nice office where staff could work if they found it hard to concentrate at home, or for new employees to learn the ropes. But personally, I hardly ever went there. My main workspace is at home, where I can be with my dad. I do most of my work there. One day, my dad asked me if I gave up on a full-time job for him, or if it was hard to find one after graduating. It made me emotional, but I explained how I've been running my online business since college. It's doing well, and I can work from home without any problems. My dad was proud of me and grateful for what I do. He said I've become a responsible adult, which meant a lot to me. I'm actually not the only child responsible for taking care of my father. I have an older brother named Tom, who's 2 years older than me. Tom tends to be selfish and doesn't often think about others. He's always been really smart and did great in school. After he graduated from a top university, he easily got a job at a really good company. When we found out about his job, we were surprised but happy for him. We all tried to reach out to congratulate him, but his response wasn't what we expected. He said he was starting a new life in the city and didn't plan to come back home. He wanted us to believe he was doing well on his own. Then he hung up the phone abruptly. Since that day, we couldn't get in touch with Tom at all. He cut off all communication with us, ignoring our calls and messages. Even though our dad had supported him financially through college and living on his own, Tom never seemed grateful and distanced himself from us. Both my dad and I felt shocked and disappointed by his behavior. We started to wonder if our mom was secretly talking to Tom. But even with Dad's health getting worse and needing care every day, Tom's complete silence showed he didn't care about his responsibilities as part of the family. Then one day we got some unexpected news from Mom. Tom called me out of the blue. He said he's thinking of marrying someone and asked if we could give them a wedding gift. He wants $99,000. Mom told Dad and me about this, looking a bit worried because of our finances. Mom mostly stays home except for her part-time job 3 days a week. She usually spends her salary on lunch and shopping with friends, so she doesn't save much. I was surprised that Mom wanted to give Tom so much money, especially since we hadn't heard from him in a long time. Dad was first calm but then got really mad. Why should we give him all that money when he hasn't even talked to us since he left home? He was upset with Mom, who looked unhappy and glanced at me for support. Mom tried to explain, but think about it, Tom's getting married. I want him to have a good life and maybe even give us grandchildren. It's what parents want. Please understand, she said calmly. The main reason I didn't go for a regular job was because of Mom, so it hurt to hear her say those things. Dad was also upset with Mom. Linda stays home to take care of me because you didn't help enough. I've supported Tom a lot, but he's never thanked me. How can you ask for such a big gift for him? That day, there were loud arguments between Mom and Dad. I listened from the next room, worried about Dad's health. Mom always favored my brother and praised him, but she didn't understand why I stayed home to care for Dad. It made me really sad. After Mom left to go out for dinner, Dad said to me, "Linda, thank you for always being here for me." "It's okay, Dad. I've known for a long time that Mom favors Tom. I'm used to it. I know I've asked a lot of you. I wish I could do more to help you. Dad, you've done so much for me. You've supported my education and always encouraged me. If it wasn't for you, I might not have started my online business." My father's smile brought me some comfort, but I couldn't understand why Mom, who had such a caring father, acted so selfishly. And my brother, who hadn't talked to us for years, suddenly asking for a big wedding gift was hard to swallow. But the most shocking thing happened shortly after. One morning, I found my father wasn't moving. I called an ambulance, but it was too late. He had passed away. Many people came to his funeral to pay their respects, showing how loved he was. Normally, the wife would arrange the funeral, but Mom said she was too busy and left it all to me. She was always on her phone, seeming more concerned about that than about Dad's passing. I felt angry and unsupported. I focused on arranging the funeral to give Dad a proper send-off. Then something surprising happened. My brother showed up at the funeral with a woman in a flashy dress. He was dressed casually, which wasn't right for the occasion. Everyone was shocked, but Mom greeted him with a smile. "I'm glad you're here, Tom. Now your father's inheritance will be ours," Mom boldly stated. The atmosphere in the hall changed completely after Mom's sudden statement. Everyone was shocked and confused. Honestly, I don't think Linda should expect any inheritance. She's been at home taking care of Dad, Tom said loudly with a hint of sarcasm. I was surprised and sighed deeply. He must have known about our family situation and Dad's health from Mom. But Mom seemed to ignore the fact that I contributed a lot to our family's finances and whether there was actually any inheritance from Dad, who needed care. Dad used to have a good job, but making such comments at a funeral was disrespectful. The funeral felt gloomy and tense. "Should we leave now, Tom? We'll get the inheritance anyway," Mom said, pulling on his arm. As soon as I saw the woman with my brother, I knew she was his wife. She had a similar vibe to Tom, and I figured she must have a personality like his to marry him. I wished they would leave soon. Surprisingly, even Mom seemed to agree with them. "Shall we go get sushi?" she said, and the three of them left. Other relatives were also surprised. Some spoke out in shock, but I suggested, "Let's stay composed for Dad's sake." I kept my irritation to myself and carried on with the funeral. Returning home, I found a messy dining table with 3 boxes of sushi, likely ordered for delivery. From the living room came the sound of voices and laughter, Mom, Tom, and his wife Jessica were having a good time, drinking. "Hey, you're late, Linda. Can you make some snacks and grab more alcohol?" my brother asked. I was shocked by their insensitivity, especially during Dad's funeral. It seemed they didn't realize their behavior was wrong, even with the shocked looks from other relatives. Mom, who should have corrected them, was joining in their laughter, making me feel justified in staying. I wondered if they would have even bothered with a proper funeral if I wasn't there. So I told them, "There's no inheritance for you." I refused to get more drinks or snacks for them. Tom, now drunk, got upset. "What do you mean, Linda? You've always been at home, causing trouble for Dad. It's only fair we use his assets." Considering that Tom relied on Dad for all his college expenses, I couldn't understand why he felt entitled to Dad's assets. It frustrated me to see him act like he didn't owe Dad anything. "Isn't this house Dad's?" Tom asked. "As the eldest son, it should be mine. Why is Linda, who does nothing all day, living here?" Mom and Tom seemed to agree. The warmth Mom used to have for me was gone. "This house is mine," Tom said firmly. "I want Linda out." His wife didn't seem bothered by this. Mom spoke next. "I feel more comfortable living with my son and his wife, who have done well in life, than with you, Linda." They didn't realize how much I contributed to the house. I felt sad and disappointed. I sighed and decided to speak up. "I'll leave. Please don't ask anything of me anymore." As I packed my things in my room, I heard my sister-in-law mocking me. "She's really poor, don't you think?" They all laughed at me, but I just smiled bitterly to myself. Yes, right now, I might seem like the most miserable one. But there's something they don't know. This house has been legally mine since Dad was alive. He entrusted it to me. Even though Mom still lives here and might say she spent most of her life here, legally, it's mine. However, seeing her cold behavior during Dad's funeral made me think about what to do with the house. I felt tired of our relationship and saw her presence as a burden. Living alone in this big house would be lonely, and maintaining it would be hard, so I decided to sell it. Seeing Mom and my brother's family enjoying my situation without knowing my decision made me feel pity for them. Expecting inheritance from Dad seems ridiculous to me. Before my mom got sick, she had a stable income. But when her health declined, she couldn't work anymore. So she used her savings to hire someone to help her every day. She spent her savings on daily expenses, and even when Dad got sick and needed more care, Mom kept spending like usual, so her savings dwindled. When I realized Dad's savings were gone, I started giving $3,000 each month to help with household expenses. Mom did the housework but wasn't good at managing money. When Mom went shopping, she often bought expensive things impulsively, even if we didn't need them. She didn't pay attention to sales or budgeting. She used the money she earned from her part-time job for her hobbies and fun stuff. She also took more money than needed for daily expenses to enjoy herself. Dad felt bad about it. In the end, the money he saved was spent by Mom. As I prepared to leave the house, I withdrew all the money I had been giving for household expenses. I couldn't bear to let my mom keep using it. The next day, something unexpected happened. "Did you take the household money, Linda?" Mom's voice came through the phone one quiet morning. She sounded surprised and a bit upset. "Mom, what household money?" "Dad's savings. Those were all gone when I checked." "Did you forget that you used them up?" I left the ledger on the table. "It shows how you kept taking money from Dad's savings. Dad knew about it too. After his savings ran out, I was the one giving $3,000 every month to support the house." I heard Mom rushing around, probably looking for the ledger I mentioned. Then I heard the living room door open. "Mom, what's going on? Wasn't there supposed to be inheritance after Dad passed? Did you use it all?" My brother sounded angry and disappointed. His wife's voice echoed in the background. "I can't believe this, Mom. Did you really call us back home expecting us to support you financially? That's really harsh." "No, that's not what I meant." It was clear Mom had called them back because of the inheritance. Hearing this, I knew they wouldn't trust her anymore. "We left our stable jobs to come here, expecting to get Dad's inheritance. How are we supposed to live now?" "What, Tom? I didn't know you made such a big decision." This was all news to me too. My brother used to have a good job, but I wasn't really bothered by their decision because it didn't affect me directly. "And what about the $2,700 you've been getting every month?" my brother asked. "Mom, you kept saying Linda wasn't working, right?" Mom suddenly looked at me with shock and guilt. What? Linda? What's going on? She asked. I smiled a little and said, You should look into remote work. These days, you can have a job without leaving home. I never told them about my successful online business. I knew if they knew, they'd start relying on me. Worse, they might interfere with my business. Please come back. Let's be a family again. Mom's voice was small, as if she hadn't blamed me at all. But I had no intention of going back. Mom, you just want to rely on my money, right? And about the house. While Dad was alive, I took over ownership because of the property taxes. It's mine now. I don't plan to live there anymore, so I asked my uncle, who runs a real estate agency, to sell it. He was really mad about what happened at Dad's funeral, so if my brother and his family stay there, he'll kick them out. Losing our home was something I never imagined. Mom sounded shocked, and I could hear my brother's voice on the phone asking, What's going on? Feeling too overwhelmed to answer my brother's question, I decided to leave everything to Uncle. He promised to handle things and explain everything to Mom and my brother's family, so I trusted him. Goodbye, I'm cutting ties with you and Mom. I won't be using this phone anymore. Farewell. With that, I ended the call. I imagined their surprise and felt a brief sadness. It would be hard for them to find me. I had plans to move abroad, a dream I never shared, not even with Dad. I always wanted to live in a warm, tropical country with a diverse culture. When Mom and my brother's family asked me to leave the house after Dad died, I saw it as the perfect chance to make my dream come true. After being evicted from the house, I immediately started packing and searching for a place abroad. I wanted somewhere quiet near the beach, so I focused on finding the perfect spot. Now I'm living alone in a short-term rental apartment close to the city center with good transportation links, which is great for getting ready for my move abroad. With my brother, his wife, and Mom busy looking for a new place to live after the eviction, they probably haven't had time to think about me. By the time I heard they were cramped in a small apartment, taking up part-time jobs to get by, I was already settling into my new life abroad. My uncle hired a detective agency to discreetly monitor them. They found out my family was struggling financially, still spending beyond their means and even borrowing money from risky lenders. If things continue like this, they might face even more trouble with debt collectors. I've cut ties with them and avoided getting involved. It's unlikely I'll ever see them again after everything that's happened. So there's this moment where Jessica suddenly realizes something about her sister. She thinks her sister is kind of sad and unlucky, and then she gets this idea. What's the idea? Well, just wait and see. Jessica, wearing a fancy wedding dress, starts talking to everyone around. She even grabs a microphone. Then she says loudly to all the guests, Does anyone want to marry my sister? She's not super smart, and she's getting older, you know? After saying this, Jessica's sister gives her a sneaky smile. But she doesn't realize how rude Jessica's words are. The room suddenly feels weird, and people start whispering. Some of them look at Jessica with disapproval. But Jessica doesn't notice any of this. She grabs the microphone again and tells her sister, Come on, you have to make yourself sound better. There are lots of good-looking doctors here. Don't you get what you've done wrong? Suddenly, something big happened. A woman named Emily Nichols, who's 29 years old and works a regular job, spoke up. She's not particularly striking in looks, just ordinary. But she has one interesting thing about her. She became a lawyer after finishing middle school. Emily has a sister named Jessica, who's 2 years younger. Jessica is pretty and outgoing, so their family always favored her. Emily, unlike Jessica, isn't noticed much. She's just average in looks and style. Plus, she's not very charming, so she didn't get much love from her family or relatives. At home, she felt ignored and often got treated coldly. She couldn't compete with Jessica's natural charm, which got all the attention from their parents. Instead of love, Emily got harsh treatment. I tried really hard in school, hoping my family would notice me even just a little bit. But no matter how well I did, I could never beat my sister. Eventually, I got tired of trying so hard to be loved by my family. I decided to focus on something else instead of seeking their affection. I threw myself into studying, telling myself I'd find my own value. Studying hard made me feel more sure of myself, and I started to see good results. I hoped that one day my parents would praise me for my academic achievements, so I kept studying late into the night during middle school. I always got the highest grades in my class and did better than everyone else in tests. But my parents never praised me. Instead, they seemed disappointed if I didn't get almost perfect scores in every subject. They'd say things like, "Being at the top isn't enough. You need to be perfect in everything." Even if I got a 95% in a tough test, they'd still say it wasn't good enough. My mom's voice was like ice, sharp and cold. She always had something to say about my grades, making excuses feel useless. "Are you trying to show off these less than perfect grades?" she'd say, making me feel small. All I could do was mumble an apology. "Yes, I'm sorry," I'd say quietly. No matter how hard I tried, my grades never seemed good enough for my parents. They never appreciated my efforts. If I didn't get a perfect score, they'd scold me. But what hurt more than their coldness was when my sister Jessica said seemingly innocent things. "Oh, are you getting in trouble again?" she'd say, barging into my room and smirking at my report card. Getting scolded even with good grades? That's sad. I get praise even for barely passing. Then she'd pretend to be concerned, saying, "I thought you were feeling down." But I guess I was wrong. "If you were really worried, you wouldn't talk to me like that." "That was my report card," I said. "See, that's your problem. You're always so standoffish. That's why Mom and Dad don't show you love. It's because of that," Jessica replied, her eyes cold and full of contempt. Even as she walked away, I could still feel her disdain. After she left, I heard her cheerful laughter with our parents from the living room. I should have been used to this by now, but I couldn't stop the sadness that welled up inside me. Tears streamed down my face. In my hand was my report card, now crumpled from my tight grip. I made a new resolve to stand on my own and escape this suffocating family environment. I decided that excelling in my studies and improving my abilities was the key to my freedom. From that moment on, I promised myself I would make it happen. I threw myself into my studies with even more determination than before. One day, as the autumn breeze blew through the classroom windows, my father made an unexpected announcement. "Emily, you will not go to high school. You need to start looking for a job immediately," he said coldly. I was shocked and didn't know what to say. "Why would you say that?" I asked, trying to hide my confusion. My father replied, "It's not worth investing more in you. If you want to go to high school, you'll have to pay for it yourself. If you can't do that, you'll have to give up." "But I'm still in middle school. I can't get a job that pays enough. How am I supposed to?" I tried to argue, but he wouldn't listen. "Then you'll just have to accept it. Your mother and I have decided to focus our finances on Jessica. We can't afford to spend more on you," he said firmly. "That's not fair." I screamed internally, but my father's decision was final. His harsh words seemed to drain all the color from my world, turning everything gray. My mother and sister watched me with unhidden smiles, clearly pleased. Now, I understand there were options to cover high school expenses, like finding schools with tuition waivers or scholarships. But back then, I didn't know about these options, and I felt devastated by the end of my educational path. From that day, my passion for learning faded quickly. The praise from my homeroom teacher, who admired my grades, felt empty. With no support for my education at home, my hopes of continuing my studies seemed impossible. After middle school, I started working at a local factory. I wasn't old enough to live on my own, so I worked hard until I turned 18. Most of my salary went to the household, and I saved the small amount I kept for myself. Those days were tough, like crawling through an endless tunnel. On my 18th birthday, I finally left that house. I left a single letter for my family and, with a firm decision in my heart, walked away from the home that was now just a memory. After I left, it was as if I never existed to my family. They didn't call or write. At first, living away from them was painful, and I felt very lonely. But over time, work kept me busy, and the loneliness faded. Living independently, the stress from home disappeared, and I felt a new sense of mental freedom. This peace of mind reignited my enthusiasm. I regained my love for learning and decided to start studying again. I began with the basics, reviewing diligently. The joy of learning filled my heart once more, and soon I was studying with ease. I moved on to high school textbooks and started reading extensively. During my reading journey, I became fascinated by books on law, which sparked a deep interest in the legal profession. Although I had only finished junior high, the idea of becoming a lawyer seemed far-fetched. But then I learned about the preliminary examination system, which opened up new possibilities for me. This system offered a chance for someone with my educational background to take the bar exam, Armed with this new information, I intensified my dedication to studying. I used every possible moment at home and during breaks at work to memorize legal terms. During lunch, I would eat while studying for the bar exam. My workplace was full of older colleagues, most around my parents' age. They noticed my efforts and came together to support me. At the age of 23, I passed the bar exam. After that, I left my long-term job at the factory and got a position at a top law firm. After about 4 years of training there, I opened my own law practice. Now, I am a legal consultant for a hospital and I feel content. Yet sometimes, I wonder how my parents would react if they knew I became a lawyer. I think about whether I would finally meet their expectations. Despite this, I have not shared anything with them. In my heart, I believe I will continue not to reach out to them. However, an unexpected reunion with my family came sooner than I anticipated. One evening after work, I came home to find a message on my phone from my younger sister Jessica saying she was getting married. Jessica is getting married, I murmured to myself. My sister, now 27, was engaged to a doctor. The notification said her wedding was next month, and they wanted me to attend. Despite the long period of estrangement from Jessica and my parents, I hesitated to meet them. But as a family member, I couldn't ignore the significant event. So I replied that I would attend. My sister quickly responded with the exact date and location of the ceremony. Her message ended with, "Don't forget the wedding gift," which made me smile wryly. It seemed Jessica was more interested in the gift than in wholeheartedly welcoming me. I decided to use the wedding as an opportunity to reunite with the family and then part ways again. On the day of Jessica's wedding, I, Donna, carefully chose a blue dress and headed to the venue. After completing the entrance formalities, I took my seat in the family area where my father and mother were already seated. "You have some nerve showing up here. You must be doing well for yourself with the meager earnings from the factory," my father said coldly. "Indeed, you're right. Introducing someone like her as family does not do us any credit as parents," my mother added disdainfully. "Jessica shouldn't have invited someone like you," my father continued. I told them exactly that, but they insisted on receiving the celebration money regardless, my mother said quietly, right in front of me. They continued their conversation without hesitation, ignoring my presence. This was my reality. I had a faint hope that sharing my side of the story might bridge the gap between my family and me, but it was quickly shattered. Both my father and mother avoided talking to me completely. In the silence, I glanced around the venue and noticed some familiar faces on the groom's side. Haven't I seen that person somewhere before? I wondered, feeling a sense of déjà vu. As I tried to remember, I looked up the groom's name, and my suspicion turned into certainty. The connection I had anticipated became clear, and I couldn't entirely hide my surprise. It felt like a twist of fate. However, I decided to keep my emotions in check and quietly participate in the ceremony. As the program proceeded, the bride and groom made a glamorous entrance, followed by his team. Guests offered warm words and entertaining performances, softening the atmosphere. Time passed, and the banquet gradually shifted to dinner and then to photo-taking sessions. Throughout this time, my parents got up without acknowledging my presence and moved towards the front where the bride and groom awaited. Jessica, like a magnet, clung close to them, smiling happily in each photograph taken. I pretended not to feel anything and focused silently on the meal in front of me. But unexpectedly, my sister Jessica approached me. She came closer with a smile, but her eyes had a spark of something more than excitement to see her sister after so many years. It seemed like she had an ulterior motive. "Big sis, it's been such a long time, hasn't it? Are you happy to spend time together like this?" she asked lightly. I nodded quietly, expressing my genuine thoughts. "Yes, the banquet food is really wonderful," I replied with a sarcastic smile. Jessica continued, "You can't get such luxurious food at the factory you work at, can you? You should be grateful for this opportunity." Something inside me felt like it was being torn apart, but I didn't show it on my face. Jessica's words grew sharper, cutting into me with a taunting edge. "Oh dear, did I upset you? I'm sorry, but it's natural for you to be envious, isn't it? Your little sister marrying a doctor and all." The phrase "I'm sorry" slipped from her mouth flippantly, as if it were a meaningless ornament. I kept my expression unchanged and quietly waited for her next move. Then Jessica whispered in my ear, "Big sis, because I feel sorry for you, I've come up with a great idea." Despite maintaining my composure, I asked with suspicion, "A great idea? What is it? Jessica replied with satisfaction. You'll see, just watch closely. Adorned in her elegant wedding dress, she gathered the attention of everyone around as she received a microphone from the staff. Suddenly, she announced loudly to the guests, "Ladies and gentlemen, you may not be aware, but my sister is here. She may not have the highest education or be the youngest, but if there is anyone kind-hearted enough, could you please take her under your wing?" My face turned red in an instant. "What are you saying, Jessica?" I exclaimed, unable to hide my shock and embarrassment. Jessica continued even louder. "Although she doesn't earn much and leads a modest life, is there someone here who can brighten my sister's future?" As everyone's attention focused on me, Jessica seemed to be relishing my confusion, sporting a smug smile. Then, something unbelievable happened. Jessica's disrespectful behavior escalated, and shockingly, even our usually gentle parents joined in. "Please treat her kindly." Their careless comment was the last straw for me. Rage surged inside me. How far will they go to satisfy their desire to ridicule someone? Especially at a moment of happiness? I couldn't believe it, but it was time for them to face reality. As the atmosphere in the venue shifted and murmurs grew, Jessica, unaware she was once again the center of attention, cheerfully took the microphone, calling out, "Emily, look, there are so many doctors gathered here. It's your chance." I remained silent, but my solemn gaze conveyed a strong will. "This is the end for you," I thought. Jessica, confused, could only respond with, "Heh." I approached her calmly, saying, "You'll understand soon just how terrible your actions have been." As Jessica tried to make an excuse, the groom suddenly raised his voice to address the venue. "Wait, please. Why are you leaving your seats?" His voice captivated everyone. Looking towards him, it was clear that all his colleagues from work were standing up, heading for the exit. Even as the groom tried to stop them, a dignified man who seemed to be the hospital director spoke to him firmly. "The recent remarks of the bride were so unpleasant that I'm in disbelief. I apologize, but we can no longer stay here. We will take our leave now." The groom rushed to stop the hospital director, offering to take responsibility for Jessica's words and actions. "Please wait. I admit her words were inappropriate. I'll speak to her directly and ensure she undergoes a serious change in awareness." However, the hospital director explained the seriousness of the situation and revealed information about me that the groom was unaware of. "The problem isn't just that. Do you know what kind of person her sister is?" The groom, confused, admitted he knew nothing about me. "Eh? No, I only met her sister for the first time today, and all I've heard was that she worked in a factory after graduating from middle school." The hospital director couldn't hide his irritation at the groom's ignorance. "Don't be ridiculous. Her sister is a respected lawyer and also serves as the legal advisor to our hospital." The groom was shocked to learn this, indicating he had no idea I was the hospital's legal advisor. "The lawyer is our hospital's advisor." Not only the groom, but also my sister, parents, and other guests were left speechless. I was contracted as the legal advisor to that hospital, which was where my sister's future husband worked. The reason the groom looked familiar was because I had seen him several times at hospital events. Other guests likely realized this too when they saw me. My sister's inappropriate comments only made things worse, prompting the hospital director to openly express his outrage. Although the groom himself is a member of the hospital's medical staff and has no direct relation to me, to the hospital director and other staff, the legal advisor is of significant importance. The groom's face turned even redder, and he stepped toward his sister, raising his voice in reproach. "What on earth is this? Because of your carelessness, my reputation is now tarnished." The groom reproached Jessica, his tone filled with indignation. Jessica stumbled over her words for a moment, then defended herself like a bewildered child. "It's not like that. I truly had no idea that my sister was in such a prestigious position." Growing more indignant, the groom continued to chastise Jessica for her ignorance. "Ignorance is no excuse. And how can you speak so lightly and disrespectfully of your own sister? As a human being, your behavior is at the very bottom. You've truly lost sight of what's valuable." Desperately trying to elicit some understanding, Jessica pleaded, "Wait a minute, listen. I have a good reason." However, the groom, unwilling to hear her explanation, declared decisively, "The withdrawal from the marriage itself. I have no interest in hearing your excuses. Our marriage discussion ends here." Shocked by his words, Jessica collapsed on the spot as if her soul had left her, her complexion turning deathly pale. Then, in a fit of anger, the groom and the guests disappeared from the wedding hall. As I was about to leave, I heard a desperate cry from my sister behind me. "Please help me, Emily." But I didn't let her cries sway me. Confronting her with a stern tone, I said, "Help you, you say? Why should I do such a thing for you? The situation you're in now is the result of your own actions. Trying to get a laugh with a joke that mocks others and then playing the victim when it fails is pathetic. I can't accept it." Jessica, confused and anxious, pleaded, "Why are you being so harsh? If you had known about my success as a lawyer," I replied calmly but firmly, "why didn't you bother to contact me? In fact, I was planning to end our relationship after this wedding, but seeing your unfortunate end, I'm somewhat satisfied. You must be disappointed that your engagement to a doctor has been called off. Well, you better work hard to find your next prospect." With those words, I left the venue with dignity. From afar, I could hear the critical voices of my sister and parents. Everything went as expected, and my sister's marriage was no more. The parents, who had believed a secure future was guaranteed through my sister marrying a doctor, expressed their anger towards her for the first time. Amidst the chaos, my sister, always pampered, couldn't bear their anger and sought solace with a broken heart. But I turned a blind eye to her pleas, devoid of sympathy. I never answered her calls, despite her repeated attempts, and I cut off all contact with the family. I heard that my sister had quit her job, now unemployed, estranged from our parents, and spending her days isolated at home. As for me, I am enjoying a very satisfying life both professionally and personally, leading a peaceful existence without major problems. Although my relationship with my family has been rocky, I am grateful for the strong support I receive from colleagues and friends. This contented life isn't just luck, it's the result of years of self-improvement and hard work. There were challenging days, but overcoming each obstacle has brought me to where I am today. Reflecting on my past struggles and their impact on my growth, I aspire to continue living a fulfilling life at my own pace, setting achievable goals while minimizing stress. My full name is Rebecca Smith. I'm 32 years old, and I married my husband, Michael, about 3 years ago in the spring. Our relationship is great, and we are also very close to his sister, Emily. We get along like sisters. This story involves a man named Daniel, who later married Emily. Michael and I have been together for over 10 years, even before we got married, so we are like parents to Emily. We always wished for her happiness and took care of her. Because of this, when Emily got a marriage proposal from her fiancé, she wanted to introduce him to us, her second parents. "I want to introduce my fiancé to you both," she told us. That moment was very special for us as a couple. We felt so happy because Emily, whom we love like a daughter, was finding her partner and working towards a happy future. It was a joyful moment for both me and Michael, and our hearts were full of happiness. Finally, the day came. Emily brought Daniel, her chosen partner, to meet us. Daniel seemed to be around my age, maybe 32. He was 5 years older than Emily, which made me realize she likes older men. I watched him quietly and was impressed by his solid appearance and calm attitude. However, I noticed Daniel kept glancing at me. Did he want to say something to me? Was there something about me that bothered him? Or was it just a coincidence? These questions popped into my mind. I quickly checked my clothes and hairstyle for any issues, but found nothing wrong. Maybe realizing it was rude to stare, Daniel quickly looked away. In the end, we couldn't understand why he was watching me so closely, but Michael and I decided not to worry about it. We went on to introduce ourselves and started chatting with Emily and Daniel, who were sitting across the table from us. "Please take good care of my younger sister," was a classic phrase exchanged, and Michael responded with a smile, "Emily, I'm trusting you to him." Saying this, he'd entrusted Emily's future happiness to Daniel. This created a warm and friendly atmosphere at the gathering, easing the initial tension of our first meeting. At one point, Michael asked Daniel a question he was curious about. "Daniel, may I ask where you work?" I was very interested in his answer and listened carefully. Daniel answered proudly, puffing out his chest. "You might have heard of it. I work at TE Company, which is growing very rapidly right now." "TE Company? Is that the famous game development company?" "Yes, that's correct. I actually started working at tea company last year, but I didn't leave my old job because I didn't like it. Tea company approached me directly because they valued my skills highly, so it's like a promotion for me. Don't worry, I didn't start as a regular employee. Hearing this surprising story, both Michael and I were amazed. I couldn't help but widen my eyes, and our gazes met. Seeing our shocked reactions, Daniel seemed satisfied that he had made an impression, and he spoke with even more pride. That's why I want you to trust me completely with Emily. I'm climbing the career ladder quickly at TE Company, and I'm confident that I'm progressing faster than most. Even though I started at a regular level, my salary will increase rapidly and I'll move up in the company quickly, so please don't worry. When I heard what Daniel said, I was so surprised that I couldn't speak. Tea Company is super famous and I know a lot about it. Michael probably knows about it too. But since he doesn't work there, he might not know all the details. I think both Emily and Michael know that TE Company is really well known in the industry, but it seemed like neither of them expected Emily's fiancé, Daniel, to move up the ranks so quickly after joining. I didn't expect it either. Some parts of Daniel's story made me feel a bit uneasy, but I decided to believe him since he talked about being recruited by TE Company and climbing the career ladder really fast. As we talked about other things, I was curious to know how they met and got together. They said they met through a friend they both knew. Daniel was looking for someone special but didn't want to go to matchmaking events, so he met Emily through a friend he trusted. Emily wasn't actively looking for a boyfriend, but she decided to meet Daniel when her friend suggested it. I really like how Daniel always makes me smile. His clumsiness is kind of cute too, Emily shared. Hearing them talk about their feelings was like hearing something really sweet, even though we weren't eating anything sugary. Their closeness and love for each other were really clear. But there was something that bothered me. As they were leaving our house, Daniel and Emily were talking about bringing rice and gifts. While they were busy with that, Daniel came up to me a bit separately and asked suddenly, "Hey, do you maybe not remember me?" His question caught me off guard, and I couldn't help but tilt my head in confusion. "Do you really not remember me?" he asked again, sounding doubtful. His face was handsome, but I couldn't recall any close friend named Daniel. I tried hard to remember, but I couldn't. Seeing me struggling to remember, Daniel sighed a little, looking disappointed. "Well then, let's exchange contact info. And please tell Michael later." I forgot to exchange contacts with him. I was shocked by his sudden informal tone. Even if we were close in the past, I couldn't remember it. And I couldn't recall being close with someone who would speak so rudely. Inside, I was full of questions like, who is he? What kind of relationship did we have? But since Emily was there, I didn't think it was the right time to ask or say anything, so I stayed quiet. After we exchanged contact info, I decided to text him to clear up my doubts. But before I could, he messaged me first, saying, "I'm surprised. The girl who used to sit quietly in the corner of the classroom in elementary school is married before me. Your face hasn't changed much since then, so I recognized you right away. Growing up, I lived far away, and in elementary school, I was teased by many classmates. Those memories are painful, so I moved away with my family for middle school. In the new city, I met Michael, a wonderful friend, and we became close. I'd rather not think about elementary school." His words surprised me, so I asked, "What do you mean?" I didn't want anyone to misunderstand, so I explained that Michael was involved in our messages. We agreed that Michael would be included whenever Daniel and I needed to exchange info. I didn't share my background or reasons with Daniel. After explaining, Daniel smiled warmly and asked, "Do you remember being called PU girl in elementary school?" The term PU girl had a specific meaning. It was used to tease me by my classmates because I was from a single-parent family. Even though we weren't really struggling financially, there was a time when other moms assumed we were just because my mom was a single parent. This rumor might have spread among the kids and led to the teasing. Because of this, and because my mom was considering taking legal action against the moms spreading rumors, I decided to move to a new place. Since then, I haven't heard that unpleasant nickname, which used to cause me so much trouble. But one day, I was surprised when a man admitted he didn't even know what the word poor meant. I calmly told him, "Please watch what you say. You're my sister-in-law's fiancé, and that's all. Please don't say things that don't make sense." After that, he didn't message me anymore. Maybe he took my words seriously and realized he shouldn't be rude. But watching all this, Michael seemed really uncomfortable with the way the man spoke, and his face changed quickly. What is that guy even thinking? It's like he doesn't realize he's talking to the sister-in-law of the woman he's going to marry, and bringing up stuff from elementary school and acting like nothing's changed. That's just crazy, Michael said, his anger showing. Seeing Michael so upset, I tried to calm him down, saying, "Take it easy, take it easy." But I was also worried, so I called my mom right away and asked her to find a class photo from my elementary school days. I wanted to see if there was a classmate named Daniel in it. Mom quickly found a boy named Daniel and said on the phone, "Wasn't this Daniel the one who used to bully you the most?" Suddenly, I remembered everything I had forgotten. Daniel was indeed the main bully. Just to be sure, I asked Mom to send me the photo. Looking at it, he looked quite different now, bigger and chubby. That's probably why I didn't recognize him. After that, I decided to look into things further. A few months after our first meeting, I got a call from Emily, which was surprising after such a long time. "Rebecca, we haven't got your RSVP for the wedding invitation yet. Are you and your husband planning to come?" "What wedding invitation? We were really looking forward to it, but we never got it," I told her. Emily seemed surprised and said, "I definitely sent it. Maybe something went wrong. Anyway, I'll bring it to you tomorrow," she said, sounding very sincere. The next day, Michael and I got the invitation directly from Emily, and we told her we'd be there. At that point, we had no idea what would happen at the wedding or how it would affect us. No one could have guessed what was coming next. On the day of the wedding, Emily looked stunning in her pure white dress, like an angel. I congratulated her with tears in my eyes, hoping for her happiness and ours too. But Daniel, the groom, quickly soured the mood. He pointed at me, surprising all of us. "Why are you here? I didn't invite you," he said, looking very displeased. It seemed like Daniel went out of his way to make sure Michael and I didn't get an invitation. This woman grew up with just her mom. When things got tough, she ran away. Maybe she had some money problems, and now she's with a rich guy thinking life will be easy. "She's living in a dream," he said. Despite not knowing anything about my past, Daniel falsely accused me. Michael, sitting next to me, clenched his fist in anger. But I told him to calm down. Daniel kept making false accusations against me. "I have an important job at a well-known company. Are you planning to use your connection as my sister-in-law to get money from me if I marry Emily?" he asked firmly. His friends were shocked and started getting excited. They must have the same narrow view as Daniel. I went to a staff member and asked for the microphone. Daniel looked like he expected me to say something emotional and illogical, but I stayed calm and said, "It's ridiculous that you, who can't even remember the face of your own company's president, call yourself an elite. Think carefully. If you want to cut ties with me, I'll be in the president's office tomorrow. We'll go through HR procedures." After handing back the microphone, I confidently returned to my seat with a calm demeanor. Michael stood up and walked towards the exit. Soon after, Emily followed him. Seeing this, Daniel called out to her, "Wait, why are you leaving too?" "I'm just trying to end things with her. If that's the case, there shouldn't be any problems, right?" Not fully grasping the situation, Daniel spoke to Emily, who gave him a cold look. "You really don't know Rebecca, do you? She's the CEO of Tea Company. I respect and deeply admire her. I can't forgive you for insulting her. I'm ending this engagement right now. You've ruined such an important day. Be prepared." Shocked by Emily's firm words, Daniel was taken aback. Emily talked to the venue staff and removed her wedding dress. She told the guests that the banquet was over, and the wedding would now be a simple meal gathering. She made it clear that this wouldn't happen again and firmly blamed Daniel for the breakup. The next day, as I had promised, I calmly waited for him in the president's office. Two big, muscular employees stood beside me, ready to act if he tried anything during our talk. When he came in, he seemed confident at first, but that soon changed. He sat down and looked tense. His behavior, coming in without permission and not even greeting, was rude. It was clear he didn't understand the basic rules of the company. "No way. I can't believe you're really the president. This is unbelievable," he said. "If you did a little research, you'd find the president's info on our website. Didn't you check before coming?" I asked. "Well, there were some things." He trailed off. It seemed he hadn't taken my words seriously or bothered to find out the truth. Maybe he thought I was joking or lying in front of all those guests. I told him I'm considering terminating your contract. What? You can't make such a quick decision over a small misunderstanding. I'll talk to the Labor Standards Inspection Office. He tried to persuade me carefully, but I calmly put a copy of his resume in front of him. You lied about your education here, didn't you? And you claim to have skills you don't actually have, like Excel and video editing. Is that true? Well, about that, he started. Falsifying information and providing false reports are valid reasons for us to terminate an employment contract, I told him directly. He looked surprised at my statement. In fact, I had a strange feeling about him since our first meeting. Afterward, I checked everything thoroughly. Normally, our company doesn't use headhunting methods. Even if we do, I personally meet and interview recommended candidates. But I don't remember having a deep conversation with Daniel. He joined through our regular hiring process and started as a regular employee. He claimed to be aiming for promotion and said he was skilled with certain software, but he actually wasn't. That's why he never got promoted. His self-assessment was very high, and I found that suspicious, so I looked into his attitude. He was lazy at work and seemed content just to be part of the company. I tried to help him improve, but he didn't change. Now that he's broken off his engagement with Emily, there's nothing special between us. He continues to act unpleasantly, making me uncomfortable, so I see no reason to be lenient with him. I promptly asked Daniel to leave the company. Since he had only been with us for less than 6 months, there was no need to consider severance pay or handing over specific duties over such a short time. Can't you help me out as an old friend? He pleaded. But I coldly replied, I don't see any reason to continue our relationship and arranged for other staff to handle his immediate departure. It seems he was hoping for financial help from his father, but because of the outrageous rumors he spread, that didn't happen. There's a past incident where my mother sued for defamation and Daniel's mother was the victim. My father paid compensation for damages once before. Faced with a similar situation with his son demanding compensation, my father likely reached his limit, stopped providing financial support, and cut ties with them completely. Afterward, Daniel took care of his elderly mother while being pursued for compensation. Eventually, he vanished, seemingly taken away by people in all black clothing, and nobody knows where he is now. Someone might eventually come forward with information about his whereabouts, but I have no plans to actively search for him. Initially, Emily was deeply hurt when she learned about her fiancé's background. But time heals, and about 6 months have passed. She's starting to see it positively, saying it's probably best we didn't get married. Lately, her smile has returned, and she's even looking for a new partner. Seeing her happier again, Michael and I are truly relieved. They're even talking about having children now. It seems like a rare item. Why does my younger sister-in-law own something like this? And even more importantly, my brother should prioritize respecting his own sister instead of some other woman. On the day of the wedding, before the ceremony began, I wanted to relax by checking on my cat using a pet camera. But instead of seeing my cat, the camera showed my dressed-up sister-in-law who was at our wedding. She didn't know there was a camera there and was going through my things without permission. When I showed this to my husband, he got really angry and stormed into the room where his relatives were waiting, showing them the live footage. My sister-in-law was caught singing and complaining about my husband while trying on my things. When my in-laws saw her behaving badly, they looked shocked and quickly left the room. A few minutes later, my sister-in-law faced the consequences of her actions, thinking she hadn't been caught and acting boldly. I've been working at the same company since I finished university 3 years ago. About 2 years into my job, a male colleague who I had grown close to confessed his love for me and asked for a serious relationship leading to marriage. I happily accepted his proposal. A year has gone by since then, and we're busy getting ready for our wedding. We found a new home not far from my in-laws, and our parents helped us out bit by bit, calling it a wedding gift. With their support, we bought a second-hand house. We had to take out a loan to cover the rest of the cost. But both my husband and my in-laws agreed that I should keep working after we got married. We were hopeful that by working together, we could pay off the loan faster. We chose a house instead of an apartment for a special reason. I really love cats, and I grew up surrounded by them at my parents' house. When I went to university in another state and had to live on my own, I couldn't imagine leaving my cats behind. When I decided to live alone, my parents weren't keen on me taking a cat with me, but I convinced them by promising to work part-time and take care of it myself. In the end, I could only bring one cat from my parents' house, but I made sure it didn't feel lonely while I juggled my studies and job. After I graduated, I stayed in the same apartment that allowed pets. But after getting married, it became clear that the apartment was too small. I was really upset at the thought of having to send my cat back to my parents' place. Cats mean a lot to me. They're like close companions. Having my beloved cat with me helped me through tough exams and the loneliness of living alone for the first time. My husband knew about my love for cats even before we started dating, so he was fine with having one. But it was hard to find a place that allowed pets. It wasn't too difficult to find a small place for one person, but finding something suitable for two adults, possibly with kids later on, and within our budget was proving tough. During a visit to my in-laws' home for wedding arrangements, I bonded with my mother-in-law over our love for cats. Since she was from the same area as my in-laws, I thought she might know about places to rent that allowed pets. Excitedly, she suggested, "Why not buy a house?" It turns out my mother-in-law used to live with cats before she married, but had to stop when she found out my father-in-law was allergic to them. Maybe feeling a bit guilty, my father-in-law didn't object to the idea and even helped us financially. Feeling it wouldn't be fair to rely only on my in-laws, I told my parents about the situation. They offered to help, mainly for the sake of the cat. My dad kept saying it was just for the cat's sake, but my mom assured me, "He's just shy, don't worry. It's a wedding gift," and gave me a knowing smile. My dad has always been reserved about showing his true feelings, and it was funny to see him act shy at a time like this. My mom and I couldn't help but laugh together. Thanks to our parents' help, we found our new home much quicker than expected and decided to move in before the wedding. My mother-in-law, who loves cats and stays active despite being in her 50s, works part-time, enjoys hobbies, and regularly visits a cat cafe to relax. Knowing she'd get along well with our cat, I invited her over soon after we moved in. To my surprise, our cat really liked her, and they had a great time together. Since then, she's been visiting often, not just to play with the cat, but also to share recipes and gossip about my husband's favorite dishes. She's gone out of her way to bond with me, and it's made our relationship really strong. My husband and I are already living together in our new home, so it feels like we've started married life early. We work at the same company, but he recently got transferred to a different department, which he's excited about. Even though our work hours differ, we both pitch in with household chores and cooking dinner when we get home. So far, we've been managing things pretty evenly. During our commute, my husband reads the newspaper for work, while I check on our cat through the pet camera. It's a routine that helps us both relax. Even on the crowded train, seeing my cat calms me down a lot. It's just one good thing after another. When I went to my husband's family home to formally meet everyone, I didn't just meet his parents for the first time. I had heard about his unmarried sister since we started dating. She's quite adventurous, with a love for traveling internationally. Instead of a regular job, she does different part-time work to save money for her trips. It seems like she's living her dream. I've always admired people with passions, and I believe that when everyone has their own interests, they tend to respect and get along with each other. So her unconventional lifestyle wasn't a big deal to me. To be honest, one big reason I chose to work full-time was because I love being surrounded by cats. Having the security of paid leave in case something happened to them was a big factor for me. Part-time jobs usually don't offer that. I also have a strong desire to travel. When I lived at home, I went on a few international trips with my family. Exploring new places is always exciting, and I thought I'd get along well with my sister-in-law. However, my husband had a lot of complaints about her. He told me how she caused him trouble, like spending his money without permission or dipping into the savings he worked hard to build up from his own part-time job. Thinking his piggy bank was an easy target, he even had to get his own bank account set up by his parents, but she still somehow managed to access it without his consent. He used simple pins back then, which made it easy for her to take advantage. He felt like he was being robbed. He was really upset, maybe because he was remembering those emotions, as she also had a habit of using and damaging his belongings without asking. Their relationship seemed strained. My husband's story sounded truthful and not exaggerated. But I didn't want to pick sides and ruin my relationship with my sister-in-law before it even began. While I listened to my husband, I made a mental note to stay neutral. The sister-in-law I met was nothing like the way my husband described her. She was completely different. As we all sat down for dinner with the in-laws, she opened up about her hobbies and was really easy to talk to. Despite the tension with my husband, I felt like we could get along, especially as women. She's in her early 30s but has a really positive outlook on life, probably because of her carefree lifestyle. However, I couldn't shake the feeling that maybe she was putting on an act. Was she being cautious around me, or was she exaggerating her carefree persona out of consideration? That's what I wondered. But as the evening went on and we all shared warm conversation, my in-laws officially welcomed us into the family with words of encouragement. My mother-in-law, drawing from her own experience, mentioned how tough it can be to balance work and household chores. She encouraged us to support each other. My husband, who had decided to support my career, confidently said he could handle the household chores, having learned from his mother. She seemed a bit worried and told us not to hesitate to ask for help if we needed it. With those words, the meet and greet for our wedding ended on a positive note. Things took a turn for the worse when my sister-in-law, unaware of the atmosphere, piped up, "With both of you working, you'll be swimming in money, right? Saving up for a rainy day, huh? If I end up single and old, you'll take care of me with that savings, won't you? So if I never marry, you've got my back." Her suggestion was that we should live off my husband's salary alone and save my entire paycheck so that if she never got married and grew old, we use that money to support her. I was shocked. It took me a moment to process what she had said, and I was speechless. But my husband understood immediately. "Are you serious? Why should we worry about your retirement when you've chosen not to plan for it?" He snapped back. He made it clear that her disrespectful comment was not our responsibility and firmly told her off. The in-laws were too taken aback to brush off her remark and asked her to leave the room, apologizing to us for her rudeness. After this incident, I made a conscious effort to avoid any interaction with my sister-in-law. While I believe everyone has the right to choose their own path in life, asking someone you barely know to take care of you in your old age is unreasonable, especially considering what my husband had told me about how she used his money and earnings from his part-time jobs without permission. I felt like she was now eyeing my income. She seemed too eager to rely on us for support, and I couldn't bring myself to warm up to her. She completely disregarded my attempts to build a relationship and get along. Even as she claimed it was just a joke to lighten the mood, it wasn't funny. She came across as immature and unable to gauge the situation. Despite her outburst, I made plans to visit my in-laws' home when I knew she would be out working part-time. So from our first meeting until the day of our wedding, I never saw her again until the very end. My husband didn't want his sister to attend the wedding, and I understood his reasons. We didn't want any disruptive behavior on our special day. However, I worried about what she might do if she felt excluded, so I convinced my husband that it would be better to have her there under someone's supervision. He reluctantly agreed. I also felt anxious about her behavior in front of my parents, relatives, and friends. The in-laws assured us they would keep a close eye on her, so I had to trust them. But my sister-in-law still managed to cause chaos with her outrageous actions. It wasn't just about us anymore. She had dragged the in-laws and all the relatives into the situation. As my husband and I arrived at the wedding venue and got ready in our separate dressing rooms, he surprised me by coming into mine. He looked dashing in his light-colored vest and morning suit, while I wore a beautiful white wedding dress that was a bit tricky to move around in on my own. I didn't want to ask him to stay with me out of loneliness, especially since he had to greet his work colleagues, so I was thrilled when he came to visit. The time before the wedding ceremony was a nice distraction for me. It wasn't just about passing the time. It had become a comforting routine. I'd check on our cat through the pet camera and feel warm and fuzzy when my husband joined me. Just as I was about to check the camera on my phone, my husband walked in. He had grown quite fond of our cat since we got one. "Do you want to wash together?" I asked, and he said yes. It seemed like he was more focused on adjusting to his morning suit than anything else. Taking advantage of his kindness, I opened the pet camera app. But instead of seeing our beloved cat, I saw my sister-in-law. We had received a message from my mother-in-law while we were on our way to the venue. She mentioned that she was bringing my sister-in-law along. We had agreed to keep each other informed to prevent any trouble, and my mother-in-law had assured us that they would be under supervision since they were driving. So why was my sister-in-law here? At that moment, I called out loudly to my husband, still unaware of what was happening. He naively told me I didn't need to shout, but when he saw the live feed from the pet camera, he was speechless. Uncharacteristically, he let out a few expletives, showing just how angry he was. Then he stormed out of the dressing room, and I hurriedly followed him. I kicked off my heels, knowing I might trip in them, and even though it felt undignified, I removed my veil and lifted the hem of my dress to run. My husband went straight to the family's waiting room, wanting to give our out-of-town family a comfortable place to rest. However, instead of the usual waiting room, it was more like a banquet hall, complete with a large screen. When I caught up to him, the whole family was surprised and confused by his actions. He was speaking to his parents, but he was so angry that his words were unclear. Seeing me, he asked for my smartphone. Using it, he projected the live feed from the pet camera onto the big screen and turned up the volume so everyone could hear. At first, the family thought it was some sort of joke or skit, watching my sister-in-law's behavior with disbelief. Some even muttered about how she always did outrageous things. But when she started ranting about my husband while humming, the mood in the room turned tense and uncomfortable. He's cutting off his own sister. What's wrong with him? Having tea with my sister-in-law isn't a big deal, right? I mean, my sister-in-law has a job, so why should he care? She said. Remember when my brother gave his wife that fancy engagement ring and sometimes buys trendy jewelry? I'm sure that was all for me, she muttered, thinking she didn't need those accessories anymore since she was single. My sister-in-law went through my dresser meticulously, even saying she'd sell anything that didn't suit her or looked valuable. I had given my mother-in-law a spare key so she could visit and play with the cat anytime. Knowing this, my sister-in-law, who had been banned from our house, took advantage of my mother-in-law's absence during the wedding to sneak in and search for valuables. When my in-laws realized what had happened, they immediately apologized to me, their faces pale with shock. When we arrived at the venue, my sister-in-law excused herself to use the restroom. Normally, you wouldn't think someone needed to be washed all the way to the restroom, especially if they were brought to a venue. My husband, my in-laws, and I never expected my sister-in-law to do something so extreme as to come to the venue without informing us. Who would have imagined that on the day of her own brother's wedding, she would sneak into our house to steal? My in-laws apologized again, stressing that stopping my sister-in-law's actions was the priority. With that, my father-in-law hurried out of the waiting room, followed by my mother-in-law. The relatives on my husband's side seemed bewildered. They might have been struggling to process their feelings, worried that a criminal might be part of the family. Unaware of the relatives' concerns, my sister-in-law found branded accessories in my dresser and tried them on with a satisfied smile, even checking their resale value on her phone. The relatives in the waiting room began to grumble about my sister-in-law's behavior and expressed distrust towards the in-laws who raised her. They questioned her upbringing, suggesting that being unemployed and single past 30 might have led to her actions. Regarding this, I wonder if my husband should apologize. He doesn't care about the relatives' opinions and is focused on making his sister atone for her actions. I could see him struggling to control his anger, clenching his fists repeatedly. I felt angry and shocked, but I realized my sister-in-law and I were very different people. Talking to someone like her would be pointless. Even if she faced consequences, she'd likely forget about it by the next day. She doesn't learn from her mistakes or have any desire to grow. I swore that even if my husband or in-laws begged for forgiveness, I wouldn't let her back into our lives. But I doubted my husband would want that either. About 10 minutes after my in-laws had left, the live video took a dramatic turn. As my sister-in-law was busy searching through our things, my father-in-law burst into the room before she could react. She was completely startled when she heard the door swing open and felt someone grab her from behind. "What are you doing here in my son and daughter-in-law's house when you're banned?" Her face showed clear shock. Our new home didn't have any security measures, and it seemed she had done her research knowing this. She must have found a way to sneak in without being noticed by the in-laws, knowing my mother-in-law had a spare key. But she clearly hadn't thought about what would happen if she got caught. She stumbled over her words, trying to make excuses. I was asked by my sister-in-law, "Look, I even found the jewelry." "That's proof." right? Following behind, my mother-in-law entered the room holding a smartphone. She loudly announced that she would report the illegal entry to the police. Why would I ask you, someone who's banned, and why are you wearing the jewelry you claim to have found? She demanded. My sister-in-law's feeble excuses were met with strong arguments from my mother-in-law. As my sister-in-law looked for a way to escape, my father-in-law held her down with all his weight. She complained of pain and said she would suffocate, but my father-in-law firmly told her that if she could shout, she wasn't going to die. At that moment, the police arrived, having been notified. They took my sister-in-law away as a trespasser, but she kept resisting, claiming, just because I entered a family member's home, that's trespassing. Are the police idiots? My mother-in-law informed her that all the evidence was there, and the entire family had seen it happen in real time, thanks to the pet camera. When my sister-in-law saw the bedroom camera, she seemed to give up and was quietly taken away by the police. I felt relieved at the sight. I hadn't expected my in-laws to involve the police, but I was grateful they took appropriate action. However, it was complicated to feel simply happy about it, knowing that a real sister had committed a criminal act. Despite their animosity, they were still siblings, and I knew my husband must have his own thoughts about it. The relatives in the room on my husband's side were in shock. The fact that a criminal had emerged from the family was hard to swallow. Some were disappointed, while others openly expressed their anger at the disgrace. Amidst the chaos, my in-laws returned after handing my sister-in-law over to the police. Naturally, the wedding couldn't proceed under these circumstances and was canceled. Some guests had traveled long distances to celebrate with us, and others had rearranged their schedules to be there. I felt a mix of regret and a desire for understanding. My in-laws quickly realized my feelings and repeatedly apologized to us, bowing their heads. My mother-in-law blamed herself for not keeping a better eye on her daughter and apologized repeatedly. She also silently endured the furious remarks from the entire family, apologizing endlessly for bringing such disgrace upon them. When my parents, concerned, peeked into the room and saw the chaos, they asked me for an explanation. I could have told my parents that my sister-in-law had broken into our new home to steal, but I wasn't sure how much they would believe. However, when my in-laws noticed my parents were there, they came over and apologized to them without explanation. As they revealed what their daughter had done, my parents' expressions grew complicated. My husband knew his sister had issues, but he had no idea she was this foolish. Despite being a victim himself, he, along with his parents, apologized to mine. But neither my parents nor I could simply brush it off, and a heavy, indescribable silence hung in the air. After some thought, my parents said they would leave future decisions up to us. But they agreed to cancel the wedding for the time being, and that settled things. Later, my sister-in-law got off with just a fine because it was her first offense, and she hadn't actually stolen anything. My husband bitterly remarked that she should have been arrested for theft and spent some time in jail. I somewhat agreed, wanting nothing to do with her going forward. Although she only received a fine, she now had a criminal record, and my in-laws severely scolded her for breaking into someone's house while they were away. Even though she was family, my daughter would know right from wrong well past the age of 30. My father-in-law was furious to the point where I thought his veins might burst, and I heard he disowned her right then and there. She had to cover all the wedding-related expenses, including those from the cancellation. My sister-in-law, who had spent all her part-time job earnings, had to borrow from various lenders to cover the costs. Some lenders were reputable, but others operated in shady ways, barely within the law. Now, she faced a future of hard work and being pursued by debt collectors. Unable to accept what had happened, my sister-in-law turned to social media to express her frustrations and seek sympathy. However, instead of support, she faced a wave of criticism. Her photo, real name, and criminal record were spread all over the internet, and a simple search would bring up these details. Although she later deleted her posts, someone had saved the logs, ensuring that her rants remained online. Even when she created new social media accounts, she was quickly identified, ensuring that her criminal past continued to haunt her. She lost her previous part-time job because her criminal record could damage the reputation of the company. Additionally, she was fired from other jobs after her coworkers found out about her past. Currently, she's struggling to get by, working physically demanding jobs like construction, and barely managing to make her debt payments. It's nearly impossible for her to resume her hobby of traveling abroad. After everything settled down, we had a small, intimate wedding with just close friends and family. It was a do-it-yourself affair with the help of colleagues and friends. But it was filled with love and will be a cherished memory for life. We've also adopted a new cat and are enjoying our happy days surrounded by our furry friend and supportive loved ones. Nadia, you're being lazy again. Oops. It's Kelly. I try to get up, but my body won't move. The door slides open, and Kelly comes in, sounding angry. Why are you taking a break? Just because you're a daughter-in-law? Kelly comes over to me and does something shocking. She takes away the cushion I'm sitting on. What? I fall back on the floor as she takes the cushion. I quickly cover my stomach with my hands but feel a sharp pain. It seems Kelly kicked me in the belly when I fell. Get up already. With that annoying belly, I should give you another one. I felt hopeless, but someone was watching. They made Kelly sit down and scolded her. Because of that person, I was saved. My name is Nadia. I'm 30 years old and I'm pregnant. Even though I have some health problems because of the pregnancy, the happiness of carrying the baby of the person I love keeps me strong. Nadia, are you okay? If you feel bad, tell me. Yeah, thanks. We're heading to my parents' house to share the news about the baby. Tom's driving, keeping an eye on me. I told Tom first about the pregnancy. When I shared it after his work, he was exhausted but thrilled. Whether it's a boy or a girl, all that matters is a healthy baby, he said, getting emotional, which made me tear up. I wondered if the people we're going to tell will be as happy. Are you feeling nervous? A little, I admit. Tom smiles at me, and I manage a faint smile back. If we were telling my biological parents, maybe I wouldn't be so anxious. It's a bit complicated. I lost my mom when I was young. Since then, my dad has been raising my brother and me alone. It must have been really tough. I love my dad a lot. When my brother moved out after getting married, and it was my turn, I worried about leaving my father alone. Dad, want to live together. After discussing it with Tom, I proposed this to my father, but his reply surprised me. You know, I've been thinking of remarrying. It turned out he had been close to a woman for a while, so I gained a new mother. When we arrived at my parents' house, my new mother welcomed us. Hello, welcome. Mom, it's been a while. Even though I call her Mom, it feels strange every time. She became my mother after I moved out, so I've hardly spent time with her. Unlike my easygoing father, she always seems strict. Simply put, she's not easy to get along with. Today I have something I want you all to hear. Beside my father sat my new mother, and beside me Tom. After we all gathered in the living room, I nervously shared my news. Oh, what is it? Well, it's still early, but I'm pregnant. Really? Congratulations, that's wonderful. My dad's face lit up with joy, his usual laugh lines showing. I'm going to be a grandpa. Looks like it's time for me to start feeling old. I can't wait to be a dad. I'm so thrilled. While Tom and my dad chatted happily, I quietly watched my mom's reaction. She didn't show much expression, hard to figure out. What was she thinking? Just as I wondered, she got up and left the room. Should I go after her? I hesitated, but she quickly returned. She had a thin blanket and a cushion in her hands. Nadia, use these. This room can get chilly. Oh, thank you. I felt a bit happy realizing she was worried about me, but my mom always seemed stern. Was it her cold, serious manner that made her hard to approach? A simple congratulations would have meant a lot to me. Maybe then we could have become closer. I was lost in these hopeful thoughts. We planned to leave right after sharing the news, but my brother and his wife, Kelly, dropped by, changing our plans. Tom and I live about an hour's drive from my parents' house, while my brother and Kelly are just a 5-minute drive away. They often visit on days off like today. It was an unexpected meeting, but a good chance to share my pregnancy news. No way. Ah, you beat me to it. That's too bad, my brother joked, pretending to be disappointed. Kelly lightly tapped his head. What are you saying? First, congrats. Congratulations, Nadia. Thank you. Kelly had a vibe similar to my mom's, direct and kind, but a bit intimidating. Honestly, I'm envious. We've been trying with no luck. Just getting older over here. At this rate, we'll be old before we know it. I'm only 2 years younger than you. Thanks for trying to cheer me up. Kelly often made self-deprecating comments like this. I always find it tough to respond in these moments. Well, we should probably head out, Tom. Yeah, let's go. As we were getting ready to leave, my parents and my brother's family offered to walk us out. Feeling a bit dizzy, maybe from the pregnancy or just the tension, I needed to be careful not to fall. I was holding onto the handrail for safety when suddenly I felt a heavy impact on my right shoulder from behind. Ouch! I nearly stumbled but managed to stay upright thanks to the handrail. Sorry, Nadia. I tripped and accidentally bumped into you. Are you okay? Yes, I'm fine. It was Kelly who had bumped into me. Tripped? But we were just walking down a straight hallway. Can that really happen? Normally, wouldn't you grab the handrail or the person next to you if you were about to fall? Why would she bump into me knowing I was pregnant? A chill ran down my spine, feeling uneasy. Sorry. Oh, you don't think I did it on purpose, do you? Don't look at me like that. It's okay. I'm fine. I couldn't accuse her without proof. Maybe it was just an accident. With that, we left my parents' house without saying anything else. After getting home, I took some time to think. Maybe I'm being a bit oversensitive because of the pregnancy. I've always gotten along okay with Kelly. There are things about her that I find difficult, but we've never really had a problem. I'm sure that feeling of malice I sensed was just in my head. I tried to convince myself of that. But after that, I started encountering strange things more often, and with each incident my distrust towards Kelly grew. The first odd thing was about my personal belongings left at my parents' house. It turns out they were somehow thrown out in the garbage. It was my mom who contacted me. I found some clothes that looked familiar in the trash. I picked them up, but what do you want to do with them? Can you leave them as they are? I'd like to check them later. When Tom and I went to check, they were indeed my belongings. Both my mom and dad said they would go into my room, but they wouldn't throw anything away without asking. So who did? Well, the day before the garbage day, Kelly came over to visit. Oddly enough, she was alone. My heart raced as previous incidents came flooding back. My mom looked at me silently, then said something as if she had sensed something. Maybe I shouldn't have said that. It's not good to suspect without proof. But maybe you should ask. What will you do? What can I do? It bothered me, but I didn't want to stir up unnecessary trouble. It's okay, she probably just came over to visit. All right then. For a while, everything was calm. Thankfully, my pregnancy was progressing smoothly, and the baby was growing healthy. Before I knew it, I was already 8 months along. By this point, I had reached a stable phase of the pregnancy, and my physical condition had improved. Since I hadn't seen Kelly in a while, there were no more issues. Then one day, my dad invited us over, saying, "Why don't you and Tom come over on your next day off?" He chose a day when there was a big festival near our parents' house. Every year, we gather at our parents' house for this festival. It's a lively celebration with all our relatives. When I told them about your pregnancy, everyone was thrilled. They said they'd love to see you, but of course, your health comes first. Standing for long periods was challenging with my growing belly, but otherwise I was doing well. I think we'll go. Yay, everyone will be really happy. With Tom saying yes, we went to visit my parents' house after a long time. Hi there, Nadia. Congratulations. My, you've grown a lot. Your baby is going to be strong and healthy. Every family member I saw said congrats. Some of them I only see on special days like this. I felt really happy and ended up moving around more than I should have. Nadia, are you moving too much? Is your belly feeling tight? My mom noticed it first. I hadn't even realized my belly was tight. Oh, you're right. It does feel a bit tight. Please take care. You're going to be this child's mom, Mom said firmly, then held my hand and guided me to another room. There was a mattress in there. Take a rest for a little while. Thank you. I could still hear everyone's voices from the nearby room. Lying down, I realized I was more tired than I thought. I felt like I could fall asleep right there. As my head started feeling fuzzy and I began to drift off, I felt a gentle tap on my head. Huh. When I opened my eyes, there was Kelly with a serious expression. Hey, what are you doing here? Everyone came to see Nadia, didn't they? It's kind of selfish to sleep. Come on, get up. Without waiting for me to respond, Kelly pulled me back out to where the relatives were. Oh, Nadia, where were you? Surrounded by everyone, I couldn't say I needed rest. So I just joined the conversation, forcing a smile. But as I stood and moved around, I could feel my belly tightening again. It wasn't good. I tried to leave a few times, but Kelly stopped me each time. Seriously, you always try to be alone. Do you dislike everyone that much? Accused like this, I couldn't leave. I stayed as long as I could, but when Kelly went to the bathroom, I finally sneaked away to another room. I really wanted to lie down, but I couldn't take the risk. I didn't know when Kelly might come back. Struggling to keep steady, I managed to sit down on a cushion I brought from the other room. I let out a quiet sigh. Honestly, lying down was all I wanted. But I couldn't risk Kelly finding me. She'd been subtly criticizing me since earlier. This place felt like a battleground. I couldn't relax for a moment, stay strong. But despite my efforts, my belly kept tightening. It wasn't painful, but it felt hard. I was only 8 months pregnant, not ready to give birth yet. I didn't want to stress the baby more. But if I rested, who knows what Kelly might say about me? When should I move? What should I do? While I sat there, holding my belly, worrying. Nadia, slacking off again. Darn it. It's Kelly. I tried to stand up, but I couldn't move. With the sound of the sliding door opening, Kelly entered, her voice full of anger. Why are you resting? Just because you're the daughter-in-law? Kelly marched aggressively towards me. But here, in this house, I'm treated like a daughter, not just a daughter-in-law. That's what I believed. But then she did something unbelievable. She grabbed the cushion I was sitting on. Huh? The force made me fall back onto the mat. Instinctively, I protected my stomach with my hands, but then felt a heavy impact on them. It was Kelly's foot. She had kicked towards my stomach as I fell. Luckily, her foot hit my hands first, lessening the impact on my belly. Get up already with that annoying belly. Need me to give you another one? She didn't seem to care anymore. I knew I needed to get up quickly, but my heavy belly and the shock slowed me down. You're too slow. As I was on all fours, Kelly raised her foot again. Stop. I couldn't react in time. I curled up tightly, bracing myself. And then it happened. Stop. A loud, commanding voice filled the room. I looked towards the voice and saw my mother standing there, her expression fierce. Don't move, understand? My mother quickly walked over and crouched next to me. Mom, how's your belly? Did you hit your head? Are you okay? Any pain? Mom checked me over, her brows furrowed with concern. I'm okay, just scraped my leg a bit. Nothing serious. Let me see. But it's just a small. Just let me see. I extended my right leg as she asked. It wasn't a big deal. When I fell, I couldn't protect myself properly because I was shielding my belly, so I just scraped my knee. It was a bit raw, but not serious. I was relieved that the baby was okay, but seeing my red knee, Mom's frown deepened. It looks sore. We need to clean it. It's really not a big deal. Don't downplay it. Your body matters. Mom turned around and shot a sharp glare at Kelly. Kelly, sit down over there. It's not what you think. I was just trying to, you know. Just sit down. Kelly, ordered firmly by my mom, sat down looking pale. Mom took a deep breath and shouted even louder. This is ridiculous. The room felt tense. Startled, Kelly shrieked and flinched. Kelly, do you understand what you've done? It's not like that. I was just trying to fix the cushion, and Nadia fell over. Right, Nadia? I was fixing it? Kelly tried to justify herself. That's not true, Kelly, I replied after a moment. You clearly pulled it out. And why would anyone need to fix a cushion someone's sitting on? It doesn't make sense, and it's not necessary. Yeah, exactly. I didn't expect Nadia to fall like that. It really surprised me. Kelly nodded vigorously. There was no sign of remorse or concern in her expression. It was like she was insisting she did nothing wrong. It felt like she blamed me for being clumsy. I could almost hear her thoughts. She was trying to get away with it, but I knew she did it on purpose. At that moment, I was terrified, not just for myself, but for the baby inside me. I shuddered at the thought of what could have happened if I hadn't shielded my belly. If she had kicked me directly, it would have been horrifying. I wanted to confront Kelly, but the words wouldn't come out. Seeing my struggle, Kelly smirked. Look, it seems Nadia doesn't have anything else to say, so let's drop this topic. We're running out of drinks anyway, and I should go check on everyone. Kelly stood up quickly, her smug demeanor from earlier now serving as an excuse to leave. Mom watched silently. She's going to get away with it. I have to speak up. After everything that happened, after risking my baby's safety, I couldn't just stay quiet. In my panic and confusion, I managed to blurt out, "You kicked me." Kelly turned back, looking startled. "What are you talking about, Nadia?" "You kicked me, Kelly. Whether pulling the cushion was on purpose or not, I don't know, but you aimed for my belly." "Wait, Nadia." Kelly started to come towards me, flustered. "Stay calm. There must be a misunderstanding." "I am calm. It's not a misunderstanding. You definitely kicked me. If Mom hadn't intervened, you would have done it again." "I would never do that." "Shut up. Just be quiet." Kelly reached out to cover my mouth. I almost stumbled, but Mom quickly supported me. "Calm down." Mom looked sharply at Kelly. Kelly, seeming weakened by Mom's gaze, froze and stepped back. When Mom calmly said, "Sit down," Kelly reluctantly returned to her chair. I've been listening quietly to both sides, but I never expected it to come to this. Please believe me, Nadia must be getting overly sensitive because of her pregnancy. She's imagining things. Kelly burst into tears. Not only was she good at manipulating words, but she also knew how to play the emotional card. Meanwhile, I had no proof and struggled to defend myself. When I got emotional, it became even harder to speak up. Would I just lose to Kelly's accusations and end up crying myself to sleep again? Is this going to be my life from now on? Tears welled up, and I looked down. Then I felt a strong movement in my belly. It felt like the baby inside was urging me on. Right, I'm going to be a mother. I can't let someone like her have her way. Wiping away my tears, I straightened up and faced forward. I may be extra cautious for the sake of my precious child, but this is not imagination. "Kelly, you did kick my belly." Kelly looked at me, eyes wide. Ignoring her reaction, I continued. "And it's not just that. You've been unkind to me multiple times. You threw away my clothes, bumped into me, and today you didn't let me rest. It was terrible. And then your actions earlier. If you call all that imagination, then you're just shameless." After I finished speaking, I took a deep breath, and Kelly glared at me, her face turning red. "Do you even know what you're saying? Do you think yelling will shut me up? Maybe in the past, but not anymore." I gently stroked my belly and locked eyes with Kelly. For the sake of this child, I won't let myself be beaten by someone who's just good at talking and being loud. I won't be defeated by a bully. "What did you just say?" Kelly's anger flared, her nostrils twitching as if she was ready to explode. But I wasn't afraid. I couldn't stay silent any longer. "Come at me if you dare." I braced myself for a confrontation, ready for whatever might come next. But then something unexpected happened. My mom burst into laughter. Both Kelly and I froze in surprise. Mom finally composed herself after a deep breath. "A cornered mouse will bite the cat, as they say," she murmured, then cleared her throat and looked between Kelly and me. "Kelly, do you have anything else to add?" "You can't possibly believe what she's saying. It's all nonsense." "Is that so?" "But you know, Kelly, I only believe what I see with my own eyes." Then Mom repeated the words Kelly had used when she snatched away the cushion. "You were just resting, being a daughter-in-law, right?" Why would Mom know those words? I saw everything from the beginning. I was so shocked I could hardly breathe. I couldn't believe what I was seeing and couldn't move immediately. "I'm sorry for frightening you, Nadia." Mom murmured an apology, and I quickly waved my hands, saying it wasn't her fault. Mom had seen everything, not just a part of it, but everything. So Kelly had been lying in front of Mom. Realizing the seriousness of the situation, Kelly's face went pale. "I had been worried about Kelly's behavior towards you, Nadia, but without evidence and being an old woman, I thought it was inappropriate to interfere. I never expected it to come to this." Even Kelly was speechless. I thought I might need to intervene, but Nadia, you handled it so well. That's what a mother looks like. You did amazing, just like my own daughter. Mom smiled warmly and nodded approvingly. Seeing her gentle expression, I finally relaxed and found myself crying in her comforting embrace. Then Tom, my brother, and Dad were summoned from the other room for an urgent family meeting. After discussing everything, we decided to cut ties with Kelly. Mom would coordinate our visits to ensure we wouldn't run into her. My brother, upon learning the truth, turned pale and kept apologizing to Tom and me. It turned out Kelly's behavior stemmed from jealousy. She was upset that I was pregnant while she couldn't conceive. I couldn't forgive her, but I did feel some sympathy. Later on, I gave birth safely. Tom cried tears of joy and stayed by my side at the hospital every day. He quickly adapted to taking care of everything except breastfeeding. Though the journey was tough until the birth, I knew the real challenge was just beginning. Mom and I grew much closer after that incident. I felt the love and support of everyone around me. With their help, I'm determined to raise our baby well. My name's Jennifer, and I'm 32 years old. I work in a busy city called New York, where people believe in working hard to succeed. My husband, Donnie, is 30 and works too. We got married 2 years ago. Donnie might seem a bit unreliable sometimes, but he's actually really kind. He's good at helping out with chores around the house. I'm a career-focused woman. I love my job and feel proud when I do well. In my job, if you work hard, you can move up. But there's a downside. Sometimes they might ask you to move to a different place. And if you want to have a baby, there's no rule about taking time off. Many women quit their jobs when they get married or have kids. I used to think the same way. I wanted to focus on my career and didn't plan on getting married. When Donnie asked me to marry him, I said no at first. I told him, I love my job. I'm in charge of a team now, but I want to go even higher. I can't imagine settling down or having kids. But Donnie understood. He promised we'd share the chores and wouldn't have kids. Eventually, I agreed to marry him because he was so understanding. Both Donnie and I work, so sometimes we don't split the chores exactly as we planned. But we help each other out, and I think we do pretty well. Sometimes my in-laws make annoying comments like, "You should focus more on your home than your job," or, "When are you having kids?" But it's not too bothersome because Donnie always supports me. Living with Donnie has been nice, and I've learned to enjoy being married. Then, one day, my boss, who's the head of our department, called me about a possible move to a different office. He said, "What do you think? You'd work at a branch office for a while, but you'd come back here after 2 years. You'd have a good position there, and if you do well, you'll get promoted when you come back. You might even become the first woman to lead a department. It's a pretty good opportunity, right?" Accepting or refusing this move could decide if I'll get promoted at my job. Everyone who's become a boss or higher has done a move like this. If I say no, I might stay in my current job, but I could also get moved to a less important position. Before I got married, I would have taken this chance right away, but now, being married made me feel hesitant. I told my boss, "Thank you for thinking of me. Personally, I'm interested, but since it involves moving, I want to talk to my husband first. Can I give you an answer after that?" He said, "All right, you're married. You can choose to go alone or move with your family. Talk it over. I'm hoping for a yes." When I got home, I talked to Donnie about it. I've been offered a job transfer. I might have to move to the countryside, but if I do well for 2 years, I can come back here. And if I keep doing well, I could get promoted. I want to take this offer if you're okay with it, Donnie. We can move together, or I can go alone. What do you think? At first, Donnie was surprised, but then he thought about it and said, "If you take this transfer, Jennifer, your dream could come true, right? I can't move with you because I have my job here, but don't worry about me. Go for it." With Donnie's support, I told the company I'd go for the transfer alone and started discussing the details. They agreed to pay for my moving costs and offered some good benefits, like considering my travel days as work days. So I decided to accept the transfer to the branch office. I got the official transfer order and chose to live in a company apartment, which was affordable. On moving day, the movers had already taken my stuff, and Donnie came to say goodbye at the station. "Thanks for seeing me off. I'll keep in touch, and I'll try to come home as much as I can." "Yeah, I'll be waiting. But remember, even though you're working from afar, don't overdo it," Donnie said. "You too," I replied. "It's time. Take care, okay? I'm heading out," Donnie said as he left. And that's how my life as a remote worker began. I planned to come home during holidays and quieter times, but things got rocky at the branch office right after I arrived. "I won't take orders from a woman. How can I trust someone new like her?" one of the local employees complained. I faced resistance from the staff there. They spread rumors about me, didn't listen to my instructions, and even ignored my calls. And then things got worse when a project I was overseeing had a big mistake because one of my team members deliberately kept me out of the loop. The subordinate who was responsible looked really shocked, but as the boss, it was my job to handle it. I had to fix the problem, apologize, and not only get things back on track, but also mend relationships with my team. My boss saw how tough things were for me and gave me some advice. I've been through a transfer too, so I get it. It might not seem fair, but you can't just push your way through. It's important to communicate well, understand others, and build relationships horizontally. So I followed my boss's advice. I spent more time getting to know everyone at the branch and even joined the neighborhood association since the company's housing was part of it. Before I knew it, I was so busy that I couldn't find time for myself, let alone go back home where my husband was waiting. I kept in touch with him, but after a few months of remote work, it got hard to reach him at night. I'm working late every day because work is tough. I get tired and end up falling asleep. As my husband made excuses and I got busier with work, I didn't suspect anything and focused more on my job. Once during a slow work period on a long holiday, I decided to go back home to New York on short notice. But I couldn't reach my husband by phone or text, so I returned from my remote work without telling him. When I opened the door to our home after a long time away, something felt strange. Then a woman I didn't recognize rushed to the door, saying, "Justin, welcome back. If I knew you were coming home early, I would have prepared." We both froze, staring at each other in shock. Finally, the woman spoke up, Sorry, but who are you?" "And who are you?" "This is my house." "Wait, what?" "I live here." After arguing and getting nowhere, we decided to check the house number outside. To my surprise, it matched the custom nameplate I had ordered. The key works, and the nameplate's right. "This is my house." "I'm going in," I insisted. "Wait, what?" "Stop." Ignoring her protests, I pushed past her and entered the house. Inside, everything had changed. The curtains, the furniture, all of it. There was a photo of my husband and the woman at a theme park. Mugs I'd never seen before, and unfamiliar toothbrushes and skincare items in the bathroom. The bed linens were different, and the wardrobe held only the woman's clothes. My husband's stuff was hidden away in a back room. As I stood there in shock, I heard the front door open. "I'm home." "Oh, Lola, did you invite a friend over?" "Justin, thank goodness you're back. This woman just barged into our house." The man the woman called Justin was definitely my husband, Donnie. Seeing me, he looked surprised. "What are you doing here?" "Donnie, why is she calling you Justin? Can you explain what's happening?" I asked him. "What do you mean? This is Justin, right?" "Justin." "Well, actually," my husband seemed flustered under our questioning. "Lola, his real name is Donnie. Isn't that what's on your driver's license? And I'm Donnie's wife, Jennifer." "That's not true. He told me he was divorced." "Donnie, you need to explain everything clearly," I insisted. "Jennifer, you were gone for so long, and I was lonely. So I thought I'd try a dating app, and that's where I met Lola," Donnie explained. "So Justin is your fake name on the dating app?" I questioned. "No, it's not like that. I was worried if my real name came out. It might cause problems, so I used a different first name but kept my last name," Donnie clarified. "And why did you lie about being divorced?" I pressed further. Lola's profile said she'd never dated a man before and was serious about finding someone for marriage. It struck a chord with me, so I lied about being divorced to win her over. "We started living together," Donnie admitted. "Why would you do something like that?" I asked, puzzled. At that moment, my husband began justifying his actions defiantly. "It's because you're always away for work. It's natural for a man to want companionship. We've been living separate lives because of your job and the long hours. I just wanted a warm home where my wife would be there with dinner when I got back." I was shocked to hear this, as I always thought my husband understood and supported my career. But that doesn't excuse what you did. What you did was wrong. If you wanted to be with someone else, you should have ended our marriage first. Why didn't you do the right thing? I cared about both of you. I never wanted to leave either of you. After everything you've done, I was bound to find out when I came back. It's unbelievable that you thought you could deceive me like this." "Well, it's your fault for not keeping your promise and coming back. If you had, I wouldn't have even thought about cheating." "What on earth? I've told you how hard work has been, and you still did this." I yelled, feeling a mix of anger and hurt. Our argument escalated into a shouting match, with the woman my husband cheated with standing there, looking stunned. She realized she'd been tricked by a married man into his mess. "So everything was a lie. You played me for a fool." "I'm leaving right now," she exclaimed. Lola, wait, it's not what you think, my husband pleaded, but it was too late. My husband tried to stop the other woman from leaving, but she brushed him off, repulsed. Don't touch me with your filthy hands. I can't believe a single word you say. She cursed before storming out, packing her things and leaving for her parents' house. Furious with my husband, I decided to take action against his betrayal. Gathering evidence, I brought it back with me when I returned to work. The first thing I did was hire a detective to look into my husband's mistress. The investigation revealed that she was the daughter of an executive at a company partnered with my husband's workplace. I had a lawyer send proof of the affair to both my husband's home and the other woman's parents. When my husband received the documents, he protested, saying he didn't want a divorce. So I prepared for a tough legal battle, even considering going to court. The other woman's family contacted my lawyer, and we arranged to meet at their office. They apologized to me, and the other woman admitted her wrongdoing. We're truly sorry. Our daughter caused you so much trouble, and we didn't even know about it. She's always been very sheltered and naive about the world. We've been trying to arrange a marriage for her, but she wanted a more free-spirited love. She met your husband without our knowledge and got carried away without knowing who he really was. She thought she found a divorced man on a dating app and wanted to move in with him. We told her to stop seeing him, but she didn't listen. She was so caught up in her fantasies that she ran away from home to be with him. Our daughter was shocked to find out she was the other woman and blames herself. She's getting therapy now. We're willing to pay you $50,000 as a settlement and hope you'll keep this matter private. The other woman and her parents shook my hand firmly. I understand your apology, but I have one condition. I'm preparing for a divorce, but my husband won't agree. If you're willing to cooperate and provide testimony if this goes to trial, then I'll accept the settlement. Okay, we'll cooperate, but we don't want our daughter to have a permanent record of this. Is there any other way we can help punish him? Well, it just so happens that his workplace is our client. In an unexpected turn of events, the woman my husband cheated with and I teamed up. We planned to give him a taste of his own medicine. His workplace was about to face a crisis because he had upset an executive at one of their client companies. And guess who would take the fall? Only my husband. Meanwhile, back at home, his parents were trying to reach out to him, unaware of the chaos. Jennifer isn't answering our calls, and she won't call back either. Is she so caught up in work that she forgot about us? When is she coming back? We miss seeing our grandchild, his mother said. Mom, you don't get it. I cheated on Jennifer while she was away, and now it looks like we're headed for divorce, my husband confessed. His mother replied, that woman who puts work before her husband is to blame. Maybe it's better if you end things with Jennifer and get back together with the woman you cheated with. My in-laws seem to think that the other woman's family had more money than ours, so they sided with my husband and his lover, attacking me relentlessly. They called me repeatedly, but I blocked their calls. Then they started calling me at work. When I refused to talk to them, they showed up at my workplace, causing a scene. Let go of our son. It's because of you being such a career-focused woman that our son cheated. He'd be happier with his lover, so stop interfering, they demanded. What are you even saying? I want to divorce Donnie. He's the one refusing. Plus, the woman he cheated with doesn't want him back. He tricked the daughter of a big-shot executive into dating him, and they're furious. It's going to be a big mess, I explained. Once they realized their son had angered an important client, my in-laws suddenly changed sides and tried to be nice to me. We had no idea it was this serious. We must have misunderstood. We're sorry. Our son messed up, but he feels bad. You'll forgive him, right, Jennifer? They pleaded. I have to decline. You just insulted me, and now you're asking for forgiveness? Please leave, I told them firmly. When they refused to leave, I had security escort them out. Because of the scene they caused, my company decided to sue them for disrupting business. After all the drama, I finally got the compensation from my husband and got the divorce. The other woman's family also demanded compensation for their daughter's suffering and therapy costs. With the loss of his job and having to pay hefty settlements, my husband was now in deep debt. He couldn't afford to quit, and he was trapped. 2 years had passed since my assignment started. When everything settled down, I finished my assignment successfully and was getting ready to go back to the main office. My hard work paid off, and I got promoted to department manager. If I hadn't taken the assignment, I might still be stuck in a loveless marriage. But I realize now that a man like him would have cheated sooner or later, and I would have clashed with his parents anyway. I've learned that I'm better suited for work than family life, and I'm incredibly fulfilled and happy now. My younger sister, Lois, called me just before our mom's funeral. She hadn't replied to any of my messages, so I was surprised to hear from her. She told me she'd just come back from Hawaii with Keith and brought me some chocolates. I was really upset because she hadn't bothered to respond to me earlier, so I ended up yelling at her in front of everyone at the funeral. I said something hurtful about her taking my husband, which was a terrible thing to say. Lois was confused and just asked, "What?" before I hung up on her. I turned off my phone and tried to calm down as I sat with the rest of the family. My name's Emily, and I just turned 38. I grew up in a family of 4. My parents, my sister Lois, who's 6 years younger, and me. My parents were pretty strict, especially with me being the oldest. But they always spoiled Lois because she was charming. Whenever she wanted something, she'd flash a smile and say, "Emily, I want this," and I usually give in. Unfortunately, this didn't change even as she got older, and she became quite a troublesome sister. Dad passed away 8 years ago from an illness, and about 6 months ago, Mom got a terminal diagnosis. She was in and out of the hospital. I married Keith, a colleague, 2 years ago and moved out to an apartment near my office. For the past 6 months, I've been driving an hour each way to take care of Mom between work. Lois moved back home and quit her job a year ago after a breakup. Even though she lived there, she kept pushing the caregiving responsibility onto me, saying I was better at it. So I took a month off work to look after Mom. But despite my efforts, she passed away 2 days ago. And where was Lois? She'd gone off to Hawaii a week before Mom's passing. I tried to convince her to stay, but she wouldn't listen. At the funeral, after the priest finished speaking, friends and family started paying their respects. It was touching to see not just relatives, but also many of Mom's friends there to grieve. Some colleagues from my company came too. "I'm sorry for your loss," one of them said. "Thank you. I really appreciate you letting me take time off to be with my mom in her final days," I replied. "He's actually my father-in-law, the president of the company where I work. He's been really understanding about everything I've been going through and has supported me a lot." "But where's Keith? I haven't spotted him here yet." "Well, he's been overseas on a business trip since last week, and I haven't been able to reach him," I explained. "Oh, I see. I'll ask the sales manager about it," I said, trying to figure out where Keith was. Keith and I work in different departments because of the big company he runs. He's always busy with sales and often away on business trips. I tried to understand, but it was hard not having him here during such a tough time. I was worried about handling everything alone, especially with no contact from him or my sister. Meanwhile, my father-in-law made the effort to be there for the funeral. Despite his busy schedule, his support meant the world to me, and it almost brought me to tears. I had to hold him back as we rode in the limo to the crematory with the rest of the family. When I turned my phone back on, I found almost 30 voicemails, mostly from Lois. "Answer your phone. You can't just make up some ridiculous lies because you're upset that I took Keith from you," she yelled in her messages. "She took Keith from me?" I questioned, trying to recall if Lois had hinted at something like that during her call before the funeral. But I was too busy dealing with the mourners to fully grasp what she was saying. Lois and Keith having an affair? That couldn't be true, could it? I felt a sudden rush of anxiety and confusion. Was Keith really on a trip with her? As I hurriedly checked the voicemail, I found several messages from my husband. "I'm so sorry, but you're strong. You can handle this on your own. But Lois, I need to be there for her. We need to end things," he said in a message that felt like it came from a soap opera script. Hearing those words, I couldn't help but mutter, "I wish I hadn't heard that." Finding out that my husband and sister were having an affair and enjoying themselves in Hawaii during my mother's funeral felt like a cruel blow. "You need to come right away if you want to say your final goodbye to Mom. We're already heading to the crematory," I reluctantly informed my sister over the phone. "That's not funny. Stop lying. You're just bitter because I took Keith from you," she shot back. "But it's true. You must be upset about losing your husband." "Yes, he's the next company president and wealthy." "I get it, Emily, but there are lies and then there are terrible lies." "You're an adult. You should know better," she retorted. "I never thought I'd hear that from you," I replied. I was surprised, though. I had no idea that you and Keith were cheating. I could almost hear the smirk in Lois's voice. She'd always loved playing tricks on me since we were kids and would laugh when I fell for them. I sighed in frustration. Anyway, this isn't the time for this. If you want to say your final goodbye to Mom, come now, I urged. I'm tired of that lie. So why do you have cheese? Lois asked abruptly. Ask his father, I replied, throwing the question back at them. I could hear them discussing on the other end, probably caught off guard by me bringing up his father. Eventually my husband, who seemed to be with Lois, took the phone. Emily, is that true? He asked. If you don't believe it, do whatever you want. I'm hanging up now, I stated firmly before ending the call. Soon we arrived at the crematory. It was my last chance to say goodbye to Mom, and my mind was in turmoil with the whirlwind of emotions from the past few days and the pain of losing my mother. I felt lost and overwhelmed, tears streaming down my cheeks. Seeing me like this, one of my relatives comforted me, saying, Your mom would surely be grateful to you, Emily, for taking such good care of her until the end. I stood in front of my mother's casket, bidding her my final farewell. Mom, thank you for everything. I'm going to miss you so much, I whispered. Just as her casket was being carried out for cremation, there was sudden commotion. Wait a minute. Where's Mom? My sister and husband burst in, their voices loud and frantic. Lois tried to hold onto the casket as it disappeared behind the doors, but they closed abruptly, leaving her wailing in despair, with Keith looking stunned. We should move along now. We're disturbing others, I said, trying to keep calm. Why didn't you tell me, Emily? I didn't get to see Mom at the end. It's your fault. Lois accused me, her voice filled with anguish. My fault? I echoed, bewildered by her accusation. Absolutely. If it was this serious, you should have told me earlier. You never said anything. Lois accused, her voice filled with frustration. I couldn't help but feel exasperated. How many times had I explained our mother's health condition to her? Every time she'd just brush it off, saying, I don't know how to handle any of this. I'll leave it to you, Emily. That's right. This all happened because you didn't explain how serious Mom's condition was. It's your fault, Lois continued to blame me. Even Keith, my husband, joined in, pointing fingers at me. I stared at them in disbelief. Then what were you two doing all this time? I demanded, my voice rising with anger. They gasped, finally falling silent. If you can't say it, I will. You were off on a fun-filled romantic getaway in Hawaii together, weren't you? As the relatives murmured, clearly taken aback by the unfolding drama, I couldn't help but feel the weight of their disbelief. For so long, whenever they asked, what's wrong with Lois? Or isn't Keith coming? I'd been making excuses for them, trying to shield them from judgment. Mom, I'm sorry. I really wanted to say goodbye to you more peacefully, I whispered in my mind, seeking her forgiveness. Gathering my resolve, I knew I had to clear the air. When did this affair start exactly? You both knew I was on leave caring for Mom, right? I was struggling, asking for help countless times, but all you did was have fun together, didn't you? I questioned, my voice tinged with frustration and hurt. Enough. It's all your fault, Emily. You didn't keep Keith close enough. Lois snapped back. What's that supposed to mean? I demanded, my patience wearing thin. You need to prioritize your husband more. He's been feeling bored at home because all you talk about is work and caregiving. Poor Keith, Lois chided, her words dripping with disdain. Oh, so that's what he said, I retorted, shooting a glare at Keith, who quickly averted his eyes, unable to meet my gaze. Emily, you managed to marry a wealthy future company president, but you've become conceited. That's why he was drawn to me. It's always been like this with you, Lois continued, her tone accusatory. In reality, Lois had a history of stealing my boyfriends back in high school and university. The only time she didn't succeed was with Keith because she was already with her own boyfriend then. What a disappointment. From now on, I'll be with Keith and become the future president's wife. So break up with him, Lois demanded. Fine, you can have Keith. I'll divorce him, I declared, my resolve firm. By then, I was beyond caring. When I decided to marry Keith, I had no clue he was the president's son. He worked at a regional branch and later joined my department at headquarters. Keith was charming, easygoing, and quickly became part of our team. As we grew closer, I developed feelings for him. We started dating, and when he proposed, I was thrilled. It wasn't until I visited his parents' house that I learned his father was the company president. It was quite a shock. So promise me you won't come back later begging to avoid the divorce, Keith pleaded. I won't do that, I assured him. Are you really sure about leaving me? He pressed. Yes, I am, I replied firmly. If you leave me, no man will want to marry a workaholic like you. You know that, right? He warned. I'll live my life as I please on my own terms. But for today, please just say your final goodbye to Mom properly, I pleaded with him. Keith and Lois exchanged knowing looks, smirking as if they had won some sort of victory. The relatives watched on, their brows furrowed, clearly disturbed by the unfolding situation. I'm truly sorry for the scene you all witnessed. I apologized to my relatives, feeling a pang of guilt. I heard Lois whispering to me, always playing the good girl. I hate this about you. I've tolerated a lot from her because she's my younger sister, but I've had enough. I won't consider her family anymore. I'm divorcing Keith, and now I feel like I have no family left. All I can do is prepare myself for that reality. I bit my lip, feeling the weight of it all. 2 weeks have passed since then. I moved out of the apartment I shared with Keith, packed up everything, and settled into a new condo near the office. I've even put my parents' house up for sale. There's nothing left tying me to the past. Lois has moved in with Keith as I moved out. Keith and I have already finalized our divorce papers and submitted them to the courthouse. I'm sure they're happily starting their new life together now. Now that I'm done with Mom's paperwork, it's time for revenge. Watch over me, Mom, I whispered to her portrait, a determined smile on my face. Enjoy your honeymoon phase while you can, you too. The next day, as I went back to the office to sort out my job reinstatement, my phone buzzed incessantly with voicemails piling up. Hey, what's happening? We're divorced, right? Why am I being asked to pay $30,000? Keith's voice sounded confused and agitated. Worried they might show up uninvited at my new place, I suggested meeting at a local diner to discuss. Once we sat down, Keith was furious, practically frothing at the mouth. I got some legal document. What's going on? We're already divorced, aren't we? He yelled. Exactly. I'm just as confused, Lois chimed in, equally puzzled. I had instructed my lawyer to claim $40,000 from Keith as my share of the property and $30,000 from Lois for her portion of our mother's medical care coverage. The documents must have arrived at their places. It was something they should have anticipated, but evidently didn't. I was exasperated. You just need to pay what you owe, I insisted firmly. That's not fair. Don't think you can get away with this. I've suffered a lot of emotional distress. Should I sue you for that too? Keith threatened angrily. Emotional distress? You cheated, plain and simple. So pay up, I retorted, refusing to back down. They fell silent, perhaps realizing they couldn't argue with the law. Then, after a pause, Lois turned her gaze towards me. So Emily, it's all about the money for you after all, she remarked coldly. Fine, I'll let Keith handle the payment. If I borrow from my dad, we can easily come up with the $70,000. Keith, I know you don't have any savings. Lois, are you really okay being with a guy who has no money? I interjected. Keith will become president soon, then he'll be wealthy. It's just a matter of time, Lois replied confidently. Oh, Lois, you're after the money too, aren't you? I couldn't help but comment, feeling a mix of disbelief and disappointment. No, I have plenty of love. Dad's been saying for a while that he'll retire at 65. So in 2 years, I'll be president, Keith asserted confidently. Really? That would be something, I replied, trying to hide my skepticism. I'm definitely going to be president. I'm his only son, Keith affirmed. I wonder. I couldn't help but chuckle, my doubt seeping through. I can't believe this. Has she lost it? Lois muttered, clearly annoyed. But the real revenge plan I had in store was just getting started. Keith, you've been taking a lot of time off work, citing family funerals, right? I asked casually. Well, my mother-in-law is family too, Keith replied, trying to justify his absences. That's true, but the company is aware of what you've actually been up to, I continued, watching Keith's expression carefully. Huh? What do you mean? He asked, clearly confused. Do you know that your father attended Mom's funeral? I dropped the bombshell, knowing I had purposely kept this information from Keith and Lois. That was you, Keith realized, his eyes widening in shock. You didn't do any caregiving at all. You have the nerve to lie about taking family leave for that. And you've gone off on several business trips with Lois instead, right? I've reported that too. I stated matter-of-factly. How did you find out? Keith stammered, clearly caught off guard. Lois has been posting photos on social media, showing where she's been and when. And there were a few pictures with you in them. Quite shocking, I revealed. Huh? You knew about my social media? Keith asked, surprised. It's the same account you had back in high school. Of course I'd know, I replied. Lois shifted uncomfortably, and Keith seemed stunned by my revelations. Wait, does Dad really know everything? He asked, looking bewildered. Just as my mother was family to you, your father considered her family too. So of course he knew about the funeral, as it should be reported to the company. Even after the funeral, he reached out to me several times to check on me, so I reported everything to him. And he's quite furious. He also made it clear he has no intention of making you the next president, I explained, dropping another bombshell. Huh? But I'm his son, Keith protested, disbelief written all over his face. He said he doesn't recall ever mentioning our company follows hereditary succession. He also made it clear he doesn't need a son who would act so disloyally. I informed them, relishing their shock. So Keith won't be the president? Lois asked, her voice filled with disbelief. As I watched their pale faces, I decided to push them even further. And just so you know, I'll be taking over as president starting next month. Huh? Keith and Lois exclaimed simultaneously. In fact, I've just received the official notice from the president and my superiors at the company. I've been formally appointed as the new president, I announced confidently. There's no way they'd make you president, Keith protested, clearly rattled. If you think it's a lie, why don't you call your father and ask? I challenged him. Keith hurriedly dialed his father's number, while Lois, his new wife, watched anxiously. So Emily is really going to be the president? It's true? So I won't become the president's wife? If I had known, I wouldn't have taken you from Emily. Lois lamented, her voice tinged with regret. But you just said you loved me, Keith muttered, stunned by the turn of events. That was considering your assets, I clarified firmly. What did you say? Keith's voice rose in confusion and frustration. Unable to tolerate their squabbling any longer, I stood up. If you two want to argue, do it somewhere else. And I'll be expecting the payment. Thank you. Wait, please don't leave me. Please, sis, support me, Keith pleaded desperately. I evaded their outstretched hands and walked away. Eventually, the couple ended up divorcing. Keith was demoted by his father and eventually resigned from his job. Now he works multiple part-time jobs every day to pay off his debts to me. Lois, on the other hand, is reportedly working at a bar at night. Initially, she seemed to be doing well, but she fell victim to a bad situation after being deceived by a dishonest man. Meanwhile, I've become the president. Admittedly, it's for a small company that operates as a subsidiary in the caregiving industry, established based on the proposal I submitted during my caregiving leave. However, the caregiving sector is projected to grow in the future, and I'm determined to excel. I'll give it my all from here on out.